Hey everybody, welcome back in for another episode of the Badass Records podcast. My name is Blair Johnson, and I am excited to share with you that this week's guest, John Knell, can be found on johnknell.com. That's JOHNKNELL. He's also at Johnny_KC on Instagram. Check him out in either of those two spots so that you can peruse his original contemporary pop culture and sports-related pieces of art. Episodes of this podcast air on Thursdays more often than not. The website where everything lives is badassrecordspodcast.com. Socials are Twitter and Instagram if you want to keep tabs on things there. You can stream it where you get your podcasts and music, and video is available on YouTube as well. And I'm always looking for new guests, so hit me up at badassrecordspodcast@gmail.com for that type of inquiry. That's all I got for you this week. Appreciate you stopping by. Hope you enjoy the show. So, I think this will be episode 169 of Badass Records podcast, and I'm super pleased to have John Knell in the building. Johnny KC.
Johnny KC.
How's it going?
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
I am so happy to be here, Blair.
Oh,
That's awesome.
man. That's
Thank you.
I'm not blowing smoke or anything, but before we were rolling, we were talking about the how and the why of this.
Yeah.
But that's the other piece. Like, I'm not trying to pat my own back either, but I feel like 99.9% of the time when I rap, people are like, "Dude, this was fun."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Boom."
Yeah.
I don't need. That's all I need.
Yeah,
I don't
totally.
need it to, because I also get a lot of bots or otherwise folks being like, you're doing it wrong, your SEO and your B2B, and don't you want to grow your Instagram and it's like, or people that I've had a couple or three labels or represent, hey, this person's killing it, you should really have them on, and it's like, I don't even, and then they'll come back in a week and again, and finally I'm like, I really appreciate it, but I only do in person, no virtual. And then they're gone.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Never heard from them again. And I think the outreach is like genuine, like they actually want to have this person, but it's like, that's, I don't like when I was a consumer of podcasts, anytime I'd go to my guys, it's his day of the week for a new app, and I go and it's a virtual. I'm like, I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
Which is not disrespectful. I just don't enjoy it.
Right.
Like it feels not the same.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say disingenuous, but dude, what I think the power of podcasting is the humanity. I think it gives people the ability to connect to each other in a very real and human way and tell stories.
Yes,
and build community, and I think that's why it resonates so well with people, especially with people that come at it with a very authentic,
right,
like you.
Yeah, thanks.
Building community, hearing stories. I mean, things that are common for all of us.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, I've had some success getting, folks that are close to the arts or in the arts or arts adjacent to be interested and to show up and do it. And most of the folks that I've sat down with are kind of in that category.
Yeah.
Where I have had no success, and I like love this this idea of somehow feeding the tubes of community growth in Kansas City.
Oh yes.
On whatever teeny tiny, but where I've had no success is with other podcasters.
Really?
Here.
Okay.
Several have been like, dude, bro, yeah. And then it's like, well, it doesn't count until you pick a date and show up. I mean, like, this is all fun and good. But.
I agree. I think that's why this resonates with me, is because my art, my tagline for my art is community driven art, and so I believe my art exists for and in community. And so I make my art specifically to serve those communities, whether it's pop culture, whether it's sports, whether it's Kansas City, those are the communities I'm passionate about. And I believe if I show up and I do something authentic to them and I represent them in a way that, that they can appreciate or enjoy or, connect with, then I've done my job.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I, it really, really makes me happy to hear that. But I knew, like, the second I opened the door, I was like,
yeah,
good vibes.
Oh,
like,
totally.
Right.
Yeah,
No, yeah,
like, totally.
Cool. This is
cool.
Gonna
this is gonna be great. This is gonna be. No, I was like that too. I mentioned, I'm like, this is gonna kick.
You're like, I forgot my coffee. Can I go get it? I'm like, who the fuck would say no to that? Yes, please.
You're like, no, you cannot.
Get out. So,
well, not that it hasn't been a little slice of heaven, John, but you need to leave.
Right. We shared a moment on the porch, and that's where I want it to end.
Before it gets, it's just going to go downhill from there, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Let's be realistic.
So, Johnny_KC
that's
on
my
Instagram,
yes, sir.
and then johnknell.com, the website, which is JOHNKNELL.
Right. It's silent K.
Good looking stuff.
Thank you.
Contemporary pop culture and sports artist.
Yes,
I mean, immediately Star Wars, Chiefs, Taylor Swift, soccer, Casey Jazz, Prince.
Yeah.
Number of other categories. But tell me about Versions Along 71.
Wow. Okay, we're going to go there first.
I mean, that's what the notes say. If I need to fire an intern, I will.
Can I speak to the intern then?
Yeah.
Wow, dude. Okay, you're going to start. All right, perfect. Let's go there. That's a photo series that's going to be developed into a book and a show. My mentor has been after me for years to put some time and attention to it, more than I have. Flashback to 2003 and to 2 and 3. So, gosh, that's a long time ago, right? My father was ill and had some mini strokes, and so I spent a lot of time driving from Kansas City here to Carthage, Missouri, which is 2 hours south, to help Mom in his care and care for him. And so I was making multiple trips a week, and then the phone cameras weren't anything, or I don't even know if the phone cameras were a thing, right? I honestly can't remember. But
That was around the time where I was like, you can text?
You can text?
Holy shit,
Yeah.
T9.
Exactly. So I just grabbed a camera one day, and I'm like, I'm going to start breaking this monotony and
I love that.
by taking some journey photos, because I was on that journey. So move forward. My dad passed in 2003. I took hundreds of photographs, and they just sat on my hard drive. In 2016, my mom started having health issues, and so repeat the same thing. I'm driving to our south. I'm taking photos. I'm like, this is familiar. This is what I'm doing. And so I generated more photos, and from both experiences. So almost 20 years apart, but similar. Versions along Highway
0203 for Dad, and then Mom was
16 to 18.
Gosh. Okay.
So in that time frame.
Yeah.
And why I haven't. So, it'd be real easy to do landscape photos and have a show, or to put them together in a photo book. But number one, I wanted to get over the emotional nature of what was going on in my life at that time. Meaning, I wanted to get into a place where I could do the story justice and tell it in the most authentic way possible, right?
Yeah.
And when the wound's fresh, after the parents pass, I didn't feel that was the time. And then just creative inertia kind of takes over, because it's not like it's not a money making thing initially, right? It's not like so you have to kind of focus on what's going to sell and what's going to not to be inauthentic, but that to do that story justice is going to take considerable amount of time, me sitting down and really tell it in a way that I want to tell it, and from an emotional place, right? And from a place that can bring people that have lost parents and that have like gone from the child to the caregiver, right? You know, you make that flip, right?
Yeah.
And if you've been through it, you understand the emotional thing behind that, and the time it takes. And it's also just figuring out what I want to say with it all, how that story is going to play out. So I come from, I was a graphic designer before I was a fine artist. So I ran a freelance graphic design firm for many years. And so that informs my art in ways that I think is positive, because how I interact with type, how I interact with space on the canvas, that comes from graphic design. And so I believe there's a way to fuse the story and the images in ways that can be visually compelling. And it's going to take time to get to it, you know.
I think some of it's up there, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've got I forgot how many pieces are there, but yeah, some of it's there. But the scope of it is not there. So the start is there.
Okay.
But the scope
Sure.
is not there.
Sure. So you had this inclination to say not now because it's too raw.
Yeah.
There wasn't a part of you that was like, if I don't do it now, I might lose some of it.
That's a really good question, and actually, now looking back on it, I think that I should have done more.
I mean, not.
No, I should have, because that is exactly right. Because the freshness breeds that rawness that I think is would benefit that. But also, having said that, yes, and there is some of that there. I do have pages of notes around that.
Oh, okay, cool.
But you know,
jog the old.
Yeah, just to jog it. That's really so. I will get to it.
I unfortunately, and I mean, I feel like I'm saying this more and more as the weeks go on with this project.
Yeah.
But doing enough of these, and you know, I've got a small inventory of experiences and knowledge and memory, so I repeat myself a lot from episode to episode.
Oh,
it's always new to you, but I'm like, you're gonna fucking say that again? All right, here we go. But this in a 50 going on 51-year-old body, this feels like the old Oregon Trail covered wagon with just the open at the back. And you leave and it's full, but it just starts falling out.
And you died of dysentery halfway along the way. Oregon Trail,
right?
Trail,
of course. But I mean, you know, not only do bumps in the road make stuff fall out, but sometimes it's like I'm trying to learn something new, and it's almost like I gotta forget something to make room for it. And
I agree with that 1,000%. I'm going to also own up to the fact that being vulnerable and being open to what my parents and my relationship was all about is something that I probably couldn't do in 2018, and it's taken years to kind of unpack
that scope developing.
Yeah, I'm adopted.
Okay.
And so you know, I was adopted by my parents were 46 when they adopted me. So if you can imagine being
and you were a baby?
I was a baby. So if you can imagine being, you know, 50 years old and having a 4-year-old, that's a task, right? And so and I have since found both my birth parents, and so that like makes sense.
What time do you have to get out of here? Seriously,
it's I mean it was so finding both my birth parents brings clarity, but it also understanding the differences between, you know, that whole nature nurture thing, that whole environment versus what you were born with, right? And I couldn't have been in a more completely different environment than my biology or what my nature wanted, right? But having met my birth father and met my birth mother, it all makes sense because I understand, you know, what I got from them. You know, I get it now. And I also understand what I got from my parents, you know, because there's a lot of things I got from my mom and dad, you know, that serve me still to this day, right? So it's a really interesting, you know, and when I met my birth mom, I remember we were sitting there, I'm like, there's no book on how to do this. You can't go and find any reference material on how to meet your birth mom, you know. So you're just winging it, and you're going to make mistakes.
I mean, raising a kid is sort of the same thing.
Totally.
Like
No. But there are more books about that.
Well, yeah.
But true. But
But
you're just
my ex and I entering the world of parenthood, she had this stack of books.
So my wife.
When are you going to, it's like, dude, you can read all the books. I used to say this. You can read all the books you want on taking apart a transmission, but until you've taken a transmission apart, how much do you really know? But no, so
we took classes too.
Oh yeah. It's no manual though on how to go about that.
No. And
how old were you when you started?
I was. Let's see, what year was that? So it was in 2001, 2002. 2002. So talk about the things falling out of the dates get. So it's 2002. So within like 4 years, had my son in 2001. Met Cindy and Roger, my birth parents, in like 2002.
Were they weren't together, were they?
No, they were separate.
Okay.
2002, 2003. Had cancer.
You did?
I had cancer.
Damn.
Yeah. Dad passed in 2003. So like there was this like 3-year period
just
of my
keep
life.
coming.
It's just like, yo, what in the world's going on, right? So that was that area of my life, and that's why I think the photos, all that was kind of just, necessary.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was
what it would have been like to have been a fly on the windshield for one of those drives.
Dude,
if your inner monologue was audible, right?
My I mean, and just finding out your history. Everybody knows, not everybody, but your history if you are with the parents that that birthed you.
Right.
You understand how your parents got together. You understand why you have blue eyes or whatever. And so finding that out as a 30-something-year-old man, was really, was wonderful. But it just takes time to process all that. You just kind of have to do that, right?
Did you start the process first and then talk to mom and dad, or did you talk to mom and dad and then get a blessing and then start the process, or what did that piece look like?
Well, dude, it started just kind of from a health thing because of the cancer thing, and then high cholesterol, just a bunch of stuff. And so I kind of wanted to know what was going on for my health. And I just kind of brought up the conversation to mom because I knew it was a private adoption. And I said, hey, what do you know about my birth parents?
Meaning there's no information visible to anybody once it's all signed, sealed, and delivered?
Right. I mean, it's very hard, from my understanding, as an adopted child to find that. But my mom, in an act of selflessness and kindness and grace, she knew the names of everybody involved in the adoption. Damn. Yeah, she knew, my birth mother, blah, blah. And so she collected stacks of like, so I grew up in Carthage. My birth parents grew up in Springfield, which is like 60 minutes away, 45, And so mom would collect information from the papers about, my birth family. And so she had a stack.
What diligence.
Yeah, she had a stack of stuff that this is where you come from. And so I was able.
She was like, I knew this day was coming.
and yeah. I mean, and honestly, dude, it just never. I was always busy doing life, man. It didn't resonate with me. And
how old were you when they told you?
Oh, I knew forever.
Like you were young.
Yeah, I was totally young. I knew forever that I was adopted, but it never resonated with me that I needed to go find them.
Now, looking back,
yeah.
Do you think that affected you knowing that? Like, did you? I suppose there are kids that get poked fun. You get poked fun of for everything, but I mean, like, everything. Do you feel like you mostly navigated life, normally, or? Yeah,
I did, and I feel like it. But I think there's always, maybe not always. I don't want to say always because that's too. For me as a person, it was always I always knew that I was adopted, right? So I always held that here in my pointing to my chest. So when I was around my family, it was always kind of like, well, I'm the adopted kid. Now they didn't treat me that way,
right?
But it's still it's something you just kind of hold on to. At least I did. At least I held on to it.
I just wonder,
did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. I just, we were talking a little bit ago about parenting and
Yeah.
what we hope for, and you did actually give me a lot of hope. Not that things are bad. Not that things are bad.
No.
And it was very much appreciated. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
You know,
from someone that's gone through it.
So like, you know, and having gone through divorce as a kid and as an adult, this whole sea of fault, and it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Like, you know, hopefully parents that are going through a divorce do everything this has nothing to do with you.
Right,
it's because
is mom,
so, you know, I wonder about this and so long ago that who knows if you could ever untap that, but, you know, walking around with this notion of, you know, I'm glad these people want me and wanted me, but why didn't those people?
Well, I didn't know at the time. I mean, I come to find out, like, my birth mother was 17 when she had me.
Damn.
So just like, realistically, that was not a, you can't imagine, can you imagine being a 16-year-old in Springfield, Missouri in 1968 being pregnant?
No.
I mean, that the social whatever around that would have, I mean, Cindy was amazingly strong-willed through all of that. What happened was how they found that she was pregnant. She was backing the car out of the driveway, and she got T'd. A car hit her as she was doing that, and they took her in for X-rays, and she had broken her pelvis.
Oh my God!
And in the process, they found me.
Oh wow!
So that explains a lot.
By the way, small detail.
But she used that to her advantage in school because she wore heavy sweaters, you know, and kind of like crutches, you know, so she was able to kind of conceal me, so that kind of helped. But there was obviously some point where she just couldn't.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of you know, so when I was adopted, you know, in 1968, I'm trying to put my thoughts together around this so I don't, but you know, I wouldn't say it was a scandal, but it was a hard time, you know, because both families were known in the community for things, and you know,
it's not a huge place either.
It's not a huge place, and so, you know, and then I was adopted, and you know, so I was adopted into a situation where a family business, a funeral home, and so there was all these dynamics around the family of the funeral home and kind of how I fit into that, and so it really was.
What a trip!
yeah, it's crazy, right? You know, so I mean, I grew up in a funeral home. You know, I drove the hearse when I was, you know, 16.
Wow.
Do you want me to tie? I can tie that into music. Do you want me to tie that into music?
Now, later, at any point, yes, absolutely.
So I tell the story now, and so I would work summers in the funeral home, right? I feel like we're tangentially going all over this place, so you can edit this out.
That's how you know it's a good episode. From my seat.
So I was 16, 17-year-old dude. It was 1985, you know, 84, 85, and I had a mullet from hell, man. You know, I had the flow and the whole thing, and my blue polyester funeral director suit. And I'm driving the hearse because that's my job. That's what I do. I drive the hearse, and I drive the hearse from the funeral home to the cemetery. And it's a Cadillac, dude. I mean, it's a nice car, you know, because it's Cadillac. And so, like, when the pastor wasn't in, or if I didn't have to take anyone with me, you know, in the front seat of the hearse, I would put in my Van Halen, like 1984, and crank that on driving, and it sounded so good, man. That stereo system in that hearse was just primo, and that was kind of that's a fond memory of mine, listening to Van Halen in the funeral home.
That's awesome. Man,
so I don't even know where to go.
No, it's great. So Visions Along 71.
Yes. Thank you for telling it.
Is it Visions or Versions?
It's Visions.
It's Visions.
Along
Okay.
71.
Man, so whatever percentage of done or complete or out there, up there, whatever it is,
okay,
doesn't matter to me because you took that step.
And
I mean, the first step, I guess, is documenting.
I'm hoping something resonated.
It did.
with
I mean,
and I've found that there's several that I've put on sale, and I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
no, go
But
please.
there are several pieces that I've put on show, on sale, and they always seem to resonate, and they always seem to, because there's one that has a stop sign, and it says, don't stop, your road awaits, and it's this landscape in front of you, and it's that encouragement I needed at the time, to make these leaps, and,
Yeah.
and to do what I need
Yeah.
to do.
Well, I don't mean to not give proper props to any of the individual pieces, but
Oh, no,
the
totally.
series
Yeah.
was what pulled me in.
Thank
And
you.
there's a lot of I mean, I have my own experiences up and down that
Do you?
highway, and some in the rural areas of southern Missouri, but it's very identifying.
Yes.
There's a sort of a tough to calculate value for Kansas Cityans or folks in the Midwest that see something like that, and it's like, I know where that is. I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
I've got my own memories associated with that.
Yeah.
And it just spoke to me and said, this is
you.
not
Thank you.
a coincidence. This
Yeah.
isn't just meh.
Yeah.
I got to put something up there for if folks click on my thing. No, it's a
No.
real.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I at the time I couldn't put words on it, but I was like,
Right.
what is this? This is, I
Right,
like
thank
this.
you. Thank you. Dude, thank you, Blair. That means a lot. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do, is I feel something and I want to make you experience something, whatever you feel towards that piece. The piece isn't complete until you view it and have a reaction
Right.
to it. I mean, whatever I do and I put it out, then my job's done.
You're right.
It's not up to me.
Right.
I can't control your reaction to it.
Yeah.
I hope you have a reaction.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like, I thoroughly enjoyed the other stuff that I was seeing. I'm a Star Wars, love the Chiefs, love
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Do you? Are you a Swiftie?
I mean,
Not a Swiftie, but
I have
are
a
you?
series
Yeah.
called Becoming a Swiftie.
Yes, I saw.
Just Lisa Alpert was episode 165. She is the fourth installment in that series.
Nice.
But if you go back to her initial episode,
Yeah.
her discovering her bio parent story is phenomenal.
Oh, okay.
Same deal. It was private.
Yeah.
So she had to jump through some hoops.
Yeah. Reach out. Be.
And eventually she came across both of them via MySpace.
Oh, really?
And
MySpace.
within a very small amount of time, Dad came to town and
Yeah.
stayed with her for like a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And eventually she connected with Mom, and they, at the time of her conception and birth, were, I don't want to say specifically, but I think a lot of their life around that time was without a home, and some substance stuff going on. And so she's born and she gets adopted, and they continued down that same path, oftentimes having other kids, but always just kind of homeless and struggling. And they have decent relationships now.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just like, I kind of an understanding that
Yeah.
I'm going to live my life this way. And so
Yeah.
this is Dad, and so is Mom. And then
Yeah.
the child. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank God. I mean, I don't know, like, just
Yeah.
wild.
It is. I mean, Cindy, and I met Cindy first, and then I met Roger after the fact. After that, not after the fact. He passed several years ago. I'm forgetting the exact. I think 2019. So he's been gone. Roger's been gone several years, and so I had the opportunity to meet him, and he had early onset Alzheimer's.
Damn.
And so I had the opportunity to meet him pre-diagnosis, which I'm very grateful for.
Wow,
right?
yeah.
Had I waited and had not done anything, so I got to really experience what a wonderful human he was,
Wow.
and how I was. Some of my traits I've gotten from him. So, it's timing. Sometimes it's sometimes just making that leap and just letting things work out. Right?
Nuts.
You just never know. You just
Now
never know.
they both, both of them, open art like it.
Oh, very yeah. No, they're very open.
No, I remember all the
Yeah.
things that went into.
Yeah.
Because I imagine that there are some folks out there, and they find the person's like, nah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I was prepared for that.
No way you could be my.
Yeah.
You were prepared for that?
I was prepared to get. I mean, as much as I could. I'm like, when I reached
The old
out,
Heisman?
Yeah. Well, when I reached out, I'm like, this could go two ways.
Okay.
This could go, they could say, hey, I've been looking for you all my life. It's wonderful. Or, or B, it's thank you, but no thanks. And you just kind of had to. So thankfully, it wasn't no thank you.
So all of this stuff happens in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Your health stuff is kind of the impetus for this search and curiosity.
Yeah.
You're making these treks years apart to care for Dad and then to care for Mom.
Yeah.
Before we were rolling, you touched on, as a young person being raised by them, they were strict, but maybe not quite so emotionally available.
Yes.
And so for you
Yeah.
to then log those times and spend that gas money and put the effort into care for both of them, knowing that was how shit went down for you as a kid. Did you have feelings about that? Was it like, I'm just going to do the right thing?
Yes. So, this is all after all that, with growing up and, being an empathetic child, a child that's emotional, that feels, I have to feel things to make you feel things. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I can't not do to do my art and to do it properly. I have to have feelings about it. It has to be that way. I mean, think of any piece of music you've ever heard, whatever you have to have that. And so to be thrown into an environment of feelings. I mean, feelings were it was Dad was like Dad's job in his world, and he did a great job. Provider. He was a provider.
Sure.
But like emotional availability, no, that's not his job. That was Mom's job, and Mom would do her best with that. But it's just a different thing. You need, it wasn't cultivated. Emotional. And also I think some of it is the stereotype man stuff that
of course,
whatever goes on.
Don't be a pussy.
Yeah, rub some dirt on it, get back in the game. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna. But so to your point, I'm a very, I believe there are things that you do because it's what you should do. I mean, there's just right things to do.
There are people in the world that would be like, I don't give a shit. They didn't, I don't know.
Well, but I mean that's a natural reaction, and not, they provided for me wonderfully. And there was not like I never wanted it for anything. Sure. I mean, they did stuff for me from a financial standpoint that I'm like, you're freaking crazy that you did it, because I would never do that for my kids. Like they bought me, Dad, I don't know why, bought me a 1984 Z28 Camaro.
Damn.
I know, right? Why he did that. I mean, can you imagine being 18 and having a Z28 Camaro?
Sounds like a crash. Real quick.
I did have one of those in that. So I mean, I don't want to, it's a balance, of Dad provided, but also, I wanted to be there emotionally for my kids. I wanted to be there, to have that for them in ways that maybe I didn't have. And it's easy to, look back and say, well, I wish, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Man, I suppose kudos are in order for not only you but for Mom and Dad as well, because at least raised, a kid that cared enough to help them.
Well, that's kind, and thank you. And they it's just what you do. I mean, I know it's just what I did.
Sure. Yeah.
And
do you have siblings then?
Well, I have 3 siblings, and out of the Janice and Joyce are my sisters, and they're twins, and one of them's deceased, and then my brother Jim is deceased. So like it's just me and Janice. So we're the only ones left.
These are adoptive parents.
These are
children.
Yeah. These are my mom and dad, not the birth.
Right.
Not birth parents.
Are you the youngest?
I'm the youngest by a long shot. Like long shot. Like my brother was out of the house and in college when I was.
So they had 3 of their own and then decided to adopt a baby.
Well, they came from. My mom was married prior and had the 3.
Okay.
Janice and Joyce and Jim.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
And then so when she married Dad, they wanted to have.
Damn,
a child
2 of 4 kids already gone.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, that's hard. And so yeah, but I was basically raised as an only child, though,
sure,
because they were gone.
Yeah.
And actually my nephews from my sister Janice, my nephews that were more like my brothers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
nice.
I had some of that.
So Carthage is where you're.
Yeah. Home of the Precious Moments Chapel.
Oh my God! Really?
You really? Yeah. Have you not done the Precious Moments Chapel?
No, sir.
Like, why would you, dude? I worked there for a summer.
Oh, wow.
Moments Chapel.
Okay.
Do you even know conceptually what it is?
The ornaments.
The little figures
Hallmark.
with the big eyes.
I associate them with Hallmark, but they're their own thing.
Yeah, I mean Hallmark distributes them. Yes,
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Totally. But the artist built this church chapel and painted the ceiling like the Sistine Chapel, but with Precious Moments figures.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it was like a mecca. It's a mecca for fans of that IP because it just people come and I was there. I was a waiter at the restaurant there.
There's a restaurant in it?
There was a restaurant.
Wow.
This was back in 90, 91. So, but yeah, it was a fine dining restaurant.
Did you drive your Camaro to those shows?
I didn't have my Camaro at that time.
It was already gone by 91?
Dude, I had a Mustang. Are you kidding me?
Hey.
Yeah, see.
Was it throaty?
It was throaty.
Nice.
It was my GT. But, so I met people from all over. I mean, just some of the nicest people you'd meet that would travel to be and to see that chapel. I went to school with one of the sons of the artist.
Okay.
And he was he's a year younger than me, and so we hung out because he's very good in art. Very good in art.
Cool.
And so we kind of had that connection.
I worked for a very short minute at the much less famous Michael Ricker's pewter casting studio.
I don't know that.
It is or was in Estes Park, and this, I mean, it was the old Looney Tunes where the sheepdog with the hair in his eyes he'd clock in for a shift, and Sam and whatever the other one's name, and there was always like a anthropomorphized horn to into the shift. It's got like a mouth, and you know what I'm talking about?
Exactly.
That was this place in real life.
Really?
This dude created wood sculptures, everything from like the tiniest little like owl with a graduation cap to like a 50s diner,
really
roller skating waitresses, and everything in between.
You're kidding me?
No.
Oh, wow.
And they would be cast into pewter.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, literally you would get in a huge ass line.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a big plastic apron and goggles and a mask to
okay.
clock in.
No way.
And then you go and I worked in the paint department. And so there would be totes of these figurines, and they've been cast in pewter, and they come out and they've got like some rough edges. So you take them all out and you line them up and you spray them with graphite.
Okay.
And then you put them back in the tote, and then they go over to a buffing wheel, and you buff the graphite off, and then they go to the paint. Then they apply the paint.
Really?
It was
That's a deal, man.
It was weird. Like,
That's a deal.
I mean, whatever. It was.
So what was your job? In all that?
I would either paint the graphite or buff the pieces at the wheel. 8 hours a day.
No way.
And I sort of like this Groundhog's Day memory. I only worked there for a few months.
Yeah.
But Mike Shanahan gets hired as the head coach of the Denver Broncos at the time. Okay. And so they took, he was like a coordinator for the team, and then he went out to the Raiders, and then he came back to the Broncos. So they took the song Return to Sender, the oldie, and made it into this like Mike Shanahan-esque, because we're in Estes Park, Colorado. It's Broncos country.
Right.
Barf. And Return to Sender. And so it was just with that oldies station or rock station. It was just piped into the place all day. The horn would sound, and you'd have a break, and I'd go out to my car and smoke some weed, and then come back in, and same for lunch.
That's awesome.
But like this, it all made sense to me, right? Estes Park is littered with little touristy kinds of shops and whatnot. All of it made sense to me, but it was like this whole thing is so removed from the art.
Oh yeah, totally.
When he was like, I'm gonna make this cute little whatever.
Yeah.
And here, and everything's toxic, and people are getting hurt.
No way.
Yeah. I mean, the measures for preventing both things were in place, but accidents are happening.
Yeah, accidents happen. Yeah.
And you don't we didn't log any part of our shifts in that department without so you would have a big, thing around your.
God, that sounds miserable.
It was so miserable.
Oh, dude.
And I had, it was really weird. I had this pocket, so I'm working at the YMCA, and my buddy and I, he was like pretty artsy in high school and wound up going to the Art Institute. Okay. But you send away for this job at the YMCA, and you find out when you get there what your job is. Okay. And going in that you have room and board and three meals a day. Okay. But you're getting paid like $2. I mean, it was $2 a day. It was something stupid. I would just go down to the record store and buy some cassettes on payday. But we get there, and it's like, you, Blair, are going to be a housekeeper, and you, Josh, are going to work in the leather shop making belts and shit.
What kind of information did they use to base those decisions? Just
your application. Okay. So I was like literally scrubbing toilets. Nice. And I forgot the point of telling you that, but I'm just that job ends. It's just a summer job, and then I'm just getting jobs. And one of them I got was in that studio, and when we would be off, there was a circle, there was a little square, the Steaming Bean Coffee Company, and big nice square with water, and we would kick hacky sack, we smoked drum. Roll your own smokes, and got high and kicked hacky sack outside the coffee shop. Yeah, and there was a pocket of dudes from Quad Cities, that had come out and done that. The previous summer, and were still there. And some would come and go, but it was like and so one day this sort of legendary dude who had gone back, they're like, he's coming through. He's going to be here tomorrow, and this is '94. I'm like, how do you guys shelling out coin for long distance phone call? And sure as shit, he came through. Yeah. He came through in a '66 split window VW bus. No. I'm going to Oregon to work on a Christmas tree farm. Anybody want to come? I was like, I will. And I just went.
Did you?
Yeah. And I hitchhiked back.
Oh, are you
with
kidding
my dog?
Me?
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Dude.
But I was like, my alarm, I was like, I'm going to decide tomorrow morning when my alarm goes off if I'm going into work at the pewter casting studio or getting in that VW bus. And my alarm went off, and I was like,
man.
So I didn't go back
that's amazing.
to that job.
No, you just but having the courage Just go. Just do it.
It's crazy.
Why not?
It's crazy.
I mean, when do we lose that? I mean, maybe some people never do.
My parents were not thrilled.
Oh, I bet not.
They're like, you're going to...
Yeah, I could totally see that.
I mean, let's pause on the responsibilities that you're walking away from now. What do you mean? You can't just hitchhike halfway across the country. I was like, well, I'm gonna. Yeah. You know, and anyway.
My dad wanted me to take over the funeral home, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so it's the same kind of thing. It's like, here's your life. It's set for you. You know, you go to college, you go get your mortician license, spend a year, I think it's a year in school for that, come back, take over the funeral home, and you're set. The funeral home at that time had been around over 100 years. It was 1882 was when the funeral home was founded. So my life was laid out in front of me, right? Perfect. Everything was set. All I had to do was follow that plan. That was the plan that was designed for me. And so having the kind of that moment, I can imagine why your parents, you're like, what are you doing? Hitchhiking.
I was already in the doghouse for leaving Pitt State.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to transfer to KU, and then I'm not coming back.
So Pitt State, I didn't ask you. Are you Chicken Mary's or Chicken Annie's?
Never went to either.
Really? Okay.
Never went to either.
So you're in neither, huh? Wow.
Well, so.
And that's totally okay.
And I didn't do much while I was there.
Was Hollywood's 21 still there?
I got my jaw broken in 2 places.
Did you?
Yeah.
In Hollywood's 21?
I think so.
Oh,
so
dude.
Here's the dugout and the library.
Yeah.
And then there's a little strip.
Yeah.
Off is it over there?
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Got punched in the face.
No.
Fractured my jaw. And
are you kidding me?
Not at all. In October of my first semester. So I was coming back to case. I mean, I had to get wired shut and shit. I mean, it was...
Dude.
And this is, I don't know how the connection was made, but I connected with some Sig Eps in the summer and went down and partied with them a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
And, I had a pretty good drinking tolerance through the final 2 years of high school. So I was like, I got this. And they were like, you don't got anything. And it was, but anyway, I was the first pinned in that pledge class.
Okay.
And out one night, and I'm like, little, drunk enough that the honesty is just flowing.
Right.
And I'm like, I am this close to being out of weed.
Uh-huh.
And that word got around, and they took my pledge pin back, and they're like, that you can't talk about that here in the Greek life. Come to find out, very shortly after, they all got high.
Yeah, I was gonna say that,
but you just can't talk about it and be also a long-haired dude with a tie-dye shirt. That doesn't help your case.
You have long hair?
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was like that. That was like, that pushed me into, I'm definitely going. I already didn't want to go to KU because I didn't want to just disappear down Party Avenue.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if I go here, at least, But so the Greek piece seal, I was like, this is where I'm going.
Oh yeah.
So that happens.
Yeah.
And I'm devastated, and I can't tell my family what happened.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know. They just told me. And then immediately after, I get my face smashed. So.
Oh my God.
I was coming home often.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, a couple times I've fucking gassed and goed. Because I didn't have any money.
Yeah. So you're doing the 69 drive. A lot.
1,000%. So Fort Scott, I'm almost there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm almost there.
Yeah.
And the start of it from here is jog up 75th to 35 South.
Yeah.
And then branch off on 69.
Yeah.
That big old I've got muscle memory of particular pieces of albums.
Yeah.
Because I would start it leaving my mom's house, and it would always kind of be like, right, oh man, it's fucking crazy. But yeah, so I didn't do much in Pittsburgh. I went to class.
But that's crazy that you did Hollywood's 21 though, because we would drive over from high school in Carthage, because you could literally back in the 80s, you could write "I'm 21, I promise" on a piece of paper.
They carded at all the bars in Pittsburgh to see. You just had to be 19. to get in.
Right.
And then you go to purchase and they're not carting.
This was 85, 86. So this was, they changed the things. But yeah, when I was doing that, it was 18 was the drinking age. So as soon as you turned 18, you could get in and drink. I mean, there's the 3-2 beer. We used to drive over to Galena and go to Sergeant Pepper's was the name of the club. And it was basically a tin shack and just whatever south of town. And we would go over there and just hang out and party and have fun. I don't know if Galena was probably about 20 minutes from Pittsburgh.
Okay. So for those that don't know, which includes me, Chicken Annie's or Chicken Mary's, what are the pros?
Oh, we always did Chicken Annie's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Because they had Hee Haw.
The television show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dad, we could drive over from Carthage and we could get there and they had a TV above the bar playing Hee Haw. And so Dad could watch his Hee Haw and we could eat chicken. And now there was a Chicken Mary's in Joplin that we would go to because it was more convenient, right?
Yeah.
So I was one of those guys. I would eat both, right?
Right.
Yeah. Chicken Mary's had this really great red applesauce. I took his applesauce and dyed it red, and it was like blood red.
Wow.
And so when you're 8, that's like some of the best things ever, right? At least it was for me. And they had great onion straws. So yeah, it's like, but Pittsburgh, those two restaurants were so iconic back in the day. I think one of them's still around.
One of them,
I think Annie's.
I think Annie's is
still around. Yeah.
Funny, I did have a small pocket of friends from in my dorm building, and when the boredom was really thick, we would go to Joplin.
Oh yeah.
And go to the mall.
Oh yeah.
And I've got
dude, we do
right
that.
here.
This is turning into
This Led Zeppelin book is from the books
Barnes and Noble.
Yeah,
not Barnes and Noble.
Whatever it was.
I can see it.
Not Borders. Walden books or something,
dude.
But
we would go over there, and in high school we'd walk up and down the mall looking for girls, and so we'd have the routine down, the food court. You had the whole thing, right? And so you could, if you pass a girl and then she kind of looks at you a little bit, okay, you make a mental note of that. So when you come back around, that she looks at you again, then okay, well maybe I can make a move. And we used to sit there. I don't know if you remember. I think it was Newman's was the core retail space there, and there was these concrete walls that would run up the aisle. And we would sit on those concrete walls and just kind of hang out.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, that's so 80s.
Yeah.
Right? Just hanging out of the mall.
Yep.
I mean, we weren't causing trouble. We were just hanging out, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever cruise Joplin?
No.
Did you cruise Maine? That was probably not a thing by the time you were there.
I mean, there would be very kind of a quick perusal of downtown, and this is kind of cool looking, but we got to get back.
Yeah. And you were in college. Cruising was more in high school,
right?
Thing. And by the time you were in college, they had really put a stamp on that. They didn't want you doing.
Sure.
So things got Southwest Missouri derailed.
Yeah. Well, it's because Southeast. Of visions along 71,
right?
Which, by the way, you can access through the link on your Instagram, which is Johnny_KC, or you can go straight to johnknell.com.
Yep. There.
So Carthage,
yes,
got the sibling lowdown.
Yeah.
Do you know how either Cindy and Roger or Mom and Dad met?
Cindy and Roger were high school.
Oh yeah, she was 17,
high school, and they met in high school. He played football.
Sure.
And that whole 60s stuff. And they went to University of Arkansas, and they spent a year still dating after I was born, and then they split after that. Cindy ended up going to North Carolina, and Roger ended up going to Washington State. So that it went completely opposite ends.
Imagine being them and going to these new places, and the people that they meet have no idea about the life that they have already lived.
Yeah, right.
It's a trip.
Yeah, and and complete. I mean, you can't. Those two places are completely different.
Right.
Like feel, vibe, the whole nine.
Yeah. Mom and Dad, how did they?
Mom and Dad. Mom was married prior. He was.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and he was in the military, and after World War II, he was over in Japan helping with the reconstruction.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so Mom took her three kids over to Japan, and they lived in Japan for several years after World War II, helping in the rebuilding effort.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. And then he got cancer, melanoma, and passed. And then Mom came back to Carthage, where she was from, and Dad was there, and so they met and they got married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, being raised essentially as a single child, are either of them putting on music to listen to?
Oh God, no.
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 None.
Dude, I grew up. So Roger, my birth father, loved music.
Okay.
Passionate about music. I was passionate about music. My dad had like zero use for music. Zero.
Not even in the car?
Not even in the car, dude. In the car, it was sports or news.
Okay.
He watched sports. It was all sports.
Yeah.
And variety TV. No music. Had no music appreciation. I came about it through just my love. Like one of my first memories of music was at my dad's sister's at my aunt's house in Texas, Seguin, Texas, and she had an Elvis record. Like one of his early, like might have been his first one with "Love Me Tender" and all that. And I remember listening to Elvis and just falling madly in love with Elvis when I was, 4. I mean, that's like one of my first music memories. So you can imagine growing up and having this passion, right?
Yeah.
There's just not, they don't care. Like for my dad to, to give me like a record album and say was not his thing.
Right.
You're
like, you've seen Magnolia?
It's been a while.
Quiz Kid, Donnie, God, who played? There's so many disturbing elements about that film, and there's a lot of beautiful elements about it too. Yeah. But he's like a boy genius on this game show, and kind of becomes famous. And the game show host is like super. You would know if I said his name. Or super creepy. But the kid turns out to be like socially bankrupt. And like, there's maybe something happening with his mouth, and he's like bleedy or something. Mm-hmm. But there's this moment where he like turns and he goes, "I do have love. I just don't know where to put it." Right? Like, you're like, it's this thing I don't even know.
And I really, they were so tolerant, dude, because I would be 13, 14, and I would be up in my room on the second floor, and then the family room was right below my room. And I would be playing my records just loud, right? I don't know why the heck they didn't get me headphones or why, but, Dad would be pounding on the walls, turn that shit down, right? What are you doing? There was, no common, connection with that.
Yeah.
So the passion just kind of, music has informed my life in ways and it's been part of my life for all my life. And I am jealous of musicians as a visual artist, because their ability to create art that resonates in ways that visual art can't, or has a different meaning. Like if you think of a song from, whatever, back in your life, that can take you right back there. Now visual arts can do that to some point.
Sure.
But to me, there's that shortcut, man. I can listen to songs and I can remember where I heard that. I can remember what I was doing.
Yeah.
Do
you mess around with country at all?
I like country and western.
Okay.
So, no, I like the older. I like Johnny Cash. I like Willie Nelson. I like some of that stuff.
Have you heard of Stephen Wilson Jr.?
No.
God damn.
I guess I need to.
So he actually did the Star Spangled Banner at the NFL Hall of Fame.
Okay.
When the draft weekend.
Okay, let me. I'll look him up here.
He I'll send it to you when we're done.
Okay.
He started appearing in my clips of this performance called Live at the Print Shop, which I guess is a big Nashville place. So he's he's got chops, first of all.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me back up. He's got big glasses and a trucker hat and a bolo tie.
Nice.
And just
nice.
I use this word lovingly.
Yeah.
Just looks like a dork, which as the president of the Casey Dorks chapter, I'm being included.
Cheers.
But he's got chops and the tone in his guitar is, and he's got a great, really unique voice. So I see a clip of an original piece.
Yeah.
Initially, I'm like, God damn, that's cool. And then another one comes my way, and it's a cover of "Stand By Me" by Benny King.
Oh yeah,
And he's put his own twist on it. I'm like, dude, this guy. And then he puts out a record called Son of Dad.
Okay.
Bro.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got a lot of tracks on it, but for my money, it's got 6 or 7 that are just incredible.
Yeah.
One is called Henry, which it was here and it's fallen because other tracks have replaced it for me.
Okay.
But it's the story of this boy who he meets him the same day that he meets his mom, and he ends up marrying his mom.
Okay.
So he met her and her son at the same moment.
Really? Okay.
And very little. And now, they've had a life together, and the message of the song is like, you don't have to call me Dad. You don't have to call me John. It doesn't matter what you call me.
Yeah.
I just hope that if I slip and introduce you as my son, it won't embarrass you. I heard that in the forced concentration world of a road trip, where you're concentrating on the road, but also you're not distracted,
right? Yeah,
the way that we are. Anyway,
oh my gosh.
There's a tune called American Gothic, which really harkens back to some memory kinds of things for him. But then, Year to Be Young, 1994. He, first one in line for The Last Dance with Mary Jane, Tom Petty, and just the whole universe was on my bedroom floor with my headphones on.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And he's talking about art. He's talking about writers, and it's such a good record.
Yeah. That sounds amazing.
There's a tune. I think it's called Twisted. And he said, the refrain is, beer's cold, but the bars are closed. There's a drought in the wettest part of Oklahoma. Tornadoes came through town on Christmas. Nobody's hurt, but the house is missing. God is good. Life is twisted. I mean, I'm telling you.
Yeah, dude, I'm going to check this out.
It's so, and it's like, I say country because it's like Jason Isbell, Sturgill Simpson, this kind of whatever that vein.
Yeah, it's not quite the Nashville.
Right.
It's not the pop country.
Right.
Yeah, it's more.
I love him.
Alt country, is that even a thing anymore? Do they even say that's a thing anymore?
Wrong guy to ask, but I love that. I'm cool. Currently flirting with burning myself out on it.
Yeah,
because I
get that.
I just more.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I get that. I do that. I'll get obsessed with these albums.
Yeah.
And I get to a point where it's just I can't listen to it. I just need a little break from it. I mean.
Yeah, and then when you come back to it, it's like, this is still really good.
That's so cool.
So,
please send it to me.
I will. No room, no bandwidth for Dad. Same with Mom.
Same with Mom. No.
So.
Art. Art was not none of my strengths. I'm sorry, but none of my strengths growing up were things that were celebrated or appreciated from encouraged. I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Because I had the path.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a funeral director.
Yeah.
now, Mom was kind of like I used to draw Star Wars comic books. I spent the whole summer, in the summer of 1980, which I had been 12. When Empire Strikes Back came out in May, and I spent that whole summer drawing the film adaptation. Right, I would get my paper out and I would do all this, and Mom was my letterer because I was a horrible letterer. So Mom would sit there and letter all the balloons and all the captions for me on these.
Wow.
On these, so I mean, I'm not trying to say they weren't supportive.
Sure.
But the career thing wasn't there. That wasn't possible.
Yeah.
That wasn't something you could do.
So,
in their mind.
Elvis record at your aunt's when you're like 4-ish,
Yes.
maybe his first.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this light bulb. And then Dad pounding on to turn it down. Somewhere in that process, you started your own collection.
Yes.
Any idea what you got first?
I would dare say it was a Beatles album.
Okay.
I had next door neighbors. They were a large Catholic family, the Shrevers. They had like 9 kids. And the youngest, Jim, was like, he's probably 8-ish years older than me, but I looked up to him. I mean, they had a basketball court there. There were always kids hanging out. We were always doing stuff. And I would just, not having anybody in my house my age, I would just kind of wander over there. I mean, they had an air hockey table. I mean, they were stacked and loaded, and they loved the Beatles, and they would open their family room windows, right, and they would turn the speakers out to the basketball court.
I want to go hang out over there,
dude. And then we would play basketball,
yeah,
and do skateboard and play basketball and just hang out, and they were like,
is this vinyl?
Vinyl.
Somebody's got to come in and flip the
Oh
record.
yeah. No, this is pre CD
Hell yeah.
stuff. Yeah, this is all vinyl, and so. my dad. So at this time, Dad was probably pushing 60, and 60 back then was a lot different than 60 now. I'm going to say that but hated the Beatles.
Oh,
you know what I mean? He grew up in that. I mean, when the Beatles hit, he hated the Beatles, and he had a gold Oldsmobile Delta 88. 4-door, right? And you remember the Beatles album? It was the Love album of their love songs. It was like leather vinyl on the covers. You open it up and had a big picture of 4 of them. In probably like 1967 picture.
Okay.
Beautiful black and white photo. And it came with a bumper sticker that said the Beatles love, and it had that, right? So I was over there. I don't know. I was 8-ish, right? I was elementary school, and I'm listening. I grab the bumper sticker. I run home and I slap it on Dad's car.
Damn!
Because I'm like,
how did the balls on this kid we adopted? Holy shit!
Like, that's the Beatles, man. We were gonna put that on Dad's car.
Did he take it off?
He took it right off. What?
And now nobody will
and now,
enjoy this bumper
exactly,
sticker.
and now no one is going to enjoy that.
Damn.
I'm just trying to show some Beatles love, man. I mean, we all love the Beatles, and that is. I think the Shrevers cultivated that sense of music and
Sure.
that sense
cool.
of culture around it.
Yeah.
Because there was always activities. They were always hanging out, and they treated me like their own, right?
That's awesome.
I mean, you have those friends that.
That's somehow part of that fabric
It is.
of why
It is.
Visions Along 71 spoke to me, because there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Not saying it's not elsewhere, but
No.
there's a lot of that in the Midwest where it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've met somebody that had a family on the block or blah, blah, blah. Oh, they treated me like their own.
Yeah.
And my own dad experienced that with my mom's family.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't getting a whole heck of, but over there, they're like, just come be one of ours.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway. So you think?
No, I agree.
You got to hear a lot of music from their place, and
Yes.
then maybe you bought a Beatles record.
I bought a Beatles record. I wish I could remember my very first Beatles record. I have. They would do Cheech and Chong. They had a lot of Cheech and. And actually, a Cheech and Chong song came up today. I don't know if you've heard it, called "Basketball Jones."
Every night I put that basketball underneath my pillow.
Maybe that's why I can't sleep at night.
I listened to that record, Cheech and Chong's greatest hit.
Yes.
With Blind Melon Chitlin.
Yeah.
Where they bring this blind dude into the studio to record a song, and it's just they're like, get him his harmonica, because he doesn't have it. He's just, and then he's singing, like, you gotta enunciate, baby, but we can't hear the words. And then he goes, finally, they're the two dudes from the label are about to give up, and they just take 17. All right, going downtown, and I'm gonna speed it up. Not do it at the speed he does. It's take too long. Going downtown, gonna see my gal, gonna sing her a song, gonna show her my ding dong. And cut. JR, read it back. And he said, all right, going downtown. And he's blind baby, what's this ding dong? And you hear this zip. Oh, I think he's gonna show it to you. And then they freak out. They're like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
You could probably play jump rope with that thing. I don't think it's gonna fit on the album cover though. But there's Blind Melon Chitlin, Basketball Jones, Dave.
Yes.
Open up, man. I think the cops.
Who?
Dave's not here.
And going to the drive-in. Remember that? They put everybody in the trunk.
Oh yeah.
We're together.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it's something about they corrupted me totally, man.
Yeah. And then the great cuts from Up in Smoke, like Mexican Americans like to go to night school and take Spanish and get a C. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh yeah. So Did you know George Harrison played lead guitar on Basketball Jones?
No, I did not.
That was George Harrison.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just random fact.
I got a Basketball Jones.
So, but ironically, okay, so this is, as I was driving here tonight, I was like, some things that I thought I really wanted your opinion on while we're talking. And the first thing is, you might be a little young, just by a few years, but I remember when CDs like came out. Like I remember that moment when, we had the vinyl, and then you have this shiny little disc that's the music's digital, and it was this amazing thing. And I remember my very first CD that I bought. I got a player. I got a Yamaha player, and I can't remember the model number. My very first CD was Prince Controversy.
I don't even know if I know that album.
Yeah, that is Dirty Mind, Controversy, 1999, Purple Rain. That's kind of how that whole thing.
Okay.
So see, I remember that. So I got that. That was my very first CD. So I lived through that transition when, CDs sound amazing. They're going to last forever. Come to find out they don't. The glue that they put the labels on has started to deteriorate. Blah, blah, blah. So the fact that we come around now and where we're at, and vinyl had this huge resurgence, and CDs are kind of like, who gives a crap about CDs?
I mean, I think there's a little bit of
the CDs are
bubbling back
up. Yeah, but
not like vinyl.
Would you ever have thought 15 years ago that vinyl was going to kind of turn that corner and become a thing again?
So, great question. My dad, I don't know if they were already separated and he was just making a random stop by, or if he was there to pick us up, but he showed up one day with a copy of Rupert Holmes's The Stranger, which has Pina Colada Song, and Barry Manilow's One Voice. Brand new vinyl copies, and he's like, these are for you. And I was like, what?
That's awesome.
Are there Legos in here? Like, is there a Star Wars action? So I just, all right.
Barry Manilow is a strong choice for that.
Well, he was. I would come to learn. I mean, I was clued in then, but I would come to discover that he was a pretty big Barry fan.
Yeah.
And it was ironic in that track 4, one of the earlier tracks on that record. Which, by the way, the title track, One Voice, is this whole orchestra sort of vocal.
Yeah.
If you're familiar, it's beautiful.
It is.
I mean, I'm not like putting on Barry very often, but there's a track on there called Ships, and it starts off, and this happens, and then like immediately, mostly, both of my parents remarried.
Okay.
And he stays in KC and starts a family. And then the dude my mom married gets transferred to Georgia. So we're gone. And this tune, Ships, starts off, we walk to the sea, just my father and me, and the dogs play around on the sand.
Yep.
And the story is like we're two ships that pass in the night. And so that kind of became a song of that we resonated with one another on that, and unpacking months later in Georgia, I get that out, and my stepdad has a record player, and he's hard rock and metal, and he's you want to listen to that Barry Manilow record? All right. So I put it on, and somehow the either poor care or the move had scratched it right where it says "My Father and Me," like, and I called in and he shipped me a new copy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that marriage ends, and we're back in Kansas City, and we have like this much vinyl, but we're just listening to 71 WHB oldies, and eventually kind of the Fox becomes just it's what's on all the time. My dad, however, has a Case Logic. Looks like a briefcase, but it's full of 8 tracks, and it's a lot of Oak Ridge Boys,
that's epic.
and John Denver, Yeah, yeah. And these got the soundtrack to the Muppet movie, and then a Sesame Street one called
Nice.
10th Anniversary.
Okay.
Those two come out when my sister and I are in the van.
Moving right along.
Yes. Oh, that was our jam.
Oh, totally.
Did you just, was that Rhode Island? You know.
John, that was pitchy.
But so it's like vinyl and then 8 tracks, and then my stepdad had a Betamax player and a Laserdisc player, and they were in my life, and then they were gone.
Yeah.
And so now, fast forward, I'm just entrenched in classic rock land.
Okay.
Just anything, and I'm riding my bike to it's Dunkin' Donuts now. Mm-hmm. But it was Peaches, and then it was Sound Warehouse, and then it was CD Warehouse. But I am spending every bit of money I can on cassettes.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm building this library in my room where I spend all my time, you know. And then all of a sudden it's like CDs, and I'm like, I can't start over.
Yeah.
So I held out forever.
Yeah.
Like
that's fair.
Through the late night, like the record store dude in Durango. Like, there was a good bit of time where I would come in and he was like happy to see me because he knew he was going to get a sale. And eventually he's like, you got to stop having me special order these cassettes, dude. What are you doing? Like, you know, get with the, and I was like, and then what? Yeah. Now I start over with CDs, and by the time I have a thing built, then there's a new thing. Sure as shit.
Hell yeah.
What LimeWire and what was the other? Napster, and now they're streaming. And so it's always been surprise after surprise. So for vinyl to make a comeback, I'm like, of course.
Yeah. Because now they can charge $40 for an album.
At the lowest,
That's the lowest. And you get all this. I mean, it becomes to me, it's always the collectibleness of the product and the connection to the artist has always been part of it, right? I mean, you want to own a bit of that artist. You want to feel like you're connected in some way. And I think streaming does away with that to somewhat. So because there's no physical, it's just and that's my thought.
The physical is a huge piece of it, which again, another portion of why this. Yeah. Because the album, talk about repeating myself, garage band. Yeah. Get local gigs. Yeah. Get this. The labels would send dudes all over the country. Just go to bars. Yeah. Yeah. Where there's live music, and if you've hear something. Yeah. And so you get discovered. Yeah. And now we're gonna sign you a deal. We're gonna pony up. We're gonna send you in the studio. Yeah. And there's gonna be 1,000 fights. Yeah. And substance abuse and no shows and flake. But at the end of the day, here's the thing that you present to the world as your piece of art.
And that process as an artist myself is something I've always romanticized about.
Same.
Like the Beastie Boys when they go out to California, and they all hole up in a studio together,
Yep. And you're choosing cover art and what tracks are making the record. Yes. How long do the tracks run? Yes. What is the credits look? Are there any cool stories in there? Yeah. And so that's part of it, but also the other part of it is that streaming, as great as it is, you're not beholden to. Well, this kind of went with fast forward and whatnot on. Yeah. I mean, you could do it with vinyl, and point being that you're not beholden to. Yeah. It's not the same as the family's house with the speakers.
Yeah, pointed out.
And you got to come in and flip the record.
You're in the middle of a jump shot and the album's over.
Yeah.
So you gotta go.
But you're consuming, way you're consuming the whole piece of work. Yeah. Which is worth something in my book. I don't know.
Oh, it is. But, now I'll play devil's advocate. I'll do the flip side of that. Like in the 90s, I had this thought. I really wish I had a chip that I could put in the back of my head that had all my music on it, and just sit here and just have it. And that's pretty much what we have now. We have every single song we've ever wanted. Yeah. And I'm still paying Apple $40 a year for this was a bad mistake on my part. I took my CD library, ripped it, and then I stored it on the Apple. They have a service where I forgot what's called, Music Match or something. I
was paying for that and finally I was like, I don't know what this is, and I got rid of it. Yeah. But I still pay them $60 a year to have access.
Because my original hard drive crapped. I have no idea where that original hard drive is, and I have stuff on there that like for example, Rappin' Duke. you're not ever going to find Rappin' Duke anywhere. Have you heard of Rappin' Duke?
It sounds familiar, but I'm not positive that I have.
He's a dude that used to rap like John Wayne.
Oh, wow.
And like our senior year in high school, like May of our senior year, when like senioritis, we're all partying and hanging out, like Rappin' Duke was like one of the soundtracks, you know, and the song is called Daha's the Word. You know, Daha, Daha. You know, he's doing like John Wayne. And so I have like 3 Rappin' Duke tracks that I had ripped from somewhere. And like if I don't pay Apple my $60 a year, it's gone. And it's not like you're going to go down and find Rappin' Duke anywhere.
And so, you've tried to find it elsewhere, I'm assuming?
It's on YouTube.
Okay.
I found it on YouTube.
Sure.
And I'm sure it is. But the point is, I wasn't thinking about things like that, you know, when you're doing this. Because now you've lost control. You know, Apple, Spotify, whatever, no matter how much money you pay, they could just close shop tomorrow. And your beautifully manicured playlists, which I save, I label my playlist the same every month for every year, so I can go back to like May of 2018 and I know what I was listening to in May of 2018.
Wow.
That's how anal I get about this.
Sure.
So, but if I don't pay Apple the $9 a month or whatever it is, you know, we have the family plan, then it all goes away. And so you've lost that bit of control now. So the benefit of having physical media is now you always have it.
Yeah.
Unless your mom, like my mom, in the throes of dementia, decides to throw out a stack of your vinyl, and because I didn't need it anymore, so she tossed like Purple Rain. Damn. Nanny. I mean, just a stack of my vinyl from the 80s, and she just threw it away. Didn't need anymore. So I've been trying to find, originals, like from that era.
Yeah.
You can go buy a new copy of whatever.
Yeah.
But I want those to replace that. Or unless a fire or something catastrophic happens, you know that music is going to be in your possession.
Right. Yeah.
We haven't even talked about AI yet.
No. What about live music? Do you have early
I love
concert memories or first?
Yeah, totally. I love live music. I love being in the room with musicians as they create their art, and then the energy that comes from that. I don't know. Growing up in Southwest Missouri, you have very small opportunities to experience live music, number one. And number two, having parents that don't really care. They're not going to go out of it. I mean, Dad would pay however much money for me to come up here to Kansas City and watch a baseball game. Cool, loved it, had a great time, not complaining. But to take that same amount of money and go somewhere and listen to bands, that's totally not on his wheelhouse. But so, should say this. So like one of my first live concerts that I remember, and it was 83-ish, 82-ish, 83-ish, was Sheena Easton.
Cool.
Came to Joplin, Missouri.
Oh, she did. Oh, wow.
And it was a big deal.
I bet.
Oh man, Sheena Easton's in Joplin, Missouri, in the Memorial Hall, right?
Yeah.
But actually, probably my best earliest concert memory was I saw the Prince Purple Rain tour.
Oh, damn.
In '84.
What venue?
In a Reunion Arena in Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah, that was legit.
Were you visiting family? Or?
My brother lived in Dallas at the time, and that was kind of like my Christmas present. That was legit, and I still have a lot of solid memories around that.
You were definitely old enough for some of that to be wired in there.
Oh yeah, right? Yeah. I was 16 in '84. That summer of '84, it was magical. I mean, and a year I was sophomore, junior, going into my junior year, it was just magical. You had, just think what was on the charts at that time. You had Purple Rain. I mean, the Jacksons started their tour that summer, and that was so big, the Jacksons tour at the time. It was here. They started it here. Mm-hmm. But 2 hours south in Carthage, we were all buzzing about that. Just the very fact that the Jacksons are going to be 2 hours away from us was a huge deal, right? I mean, we all were trying to get tickets. We all were trying to beg our parents to come up here and watch them, and it just was a huge deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
yes, I love live music as well.
Today there's the stuff you can find in the bio, Johnny_KC on Instagram or johnknell.com.
Yeah.
the artist Prince, an invitation to reach out for collaborations and so on and so forth.
Totally.
On this end, a very, very young person with passion, love, art, whatever the label or labels are. Where does it first dawn on you that, oh, that's what that is? And what does the path look like to today?
How far back you want me to go?
It's your story to tell, man. Honestly.
It was honestly so third grade.
Okay.
Third grade. That's
Love
how far
it.
back we're going to go. Mom had Sunday school she had to go to. And so Dad didn't or wasn't, I don't know what. So he would go and drink coffee with the boys and then meet Mom at church.
Okay.
Very Southwest, very. And Mom said there's nothing to do with me because, there was no, I don't know, for whatever reason I wasn't going to Sunday school. So I ended up going with Dad to coffee with the boys.
Oh. Okay.
So we would go and to keep me quiet, there was like one of those wire rotating paperback book things. And they had books, Peanuts comic books, right? And so Dad, to give me something to do every Sunday, would buy me a Peanuts book, and I would sit there and devour that while he, bullshitted with the boys before church. So Snoopy became the first thing I drew.
Oh my God.
Third grade.
I love it.
And at that moment, I knew, this is it. This is it. And then Star Wars happened in fourth grade.
Okay.
And then, so that was, that took it to the next level. So it's like, okay, you mean I can do this? And I became obsessed with it. I would spend, there's one summer I drew so much, I was hunched over my table in my room that I pulled my neck muscles. And I literally, my fourth grade picture, school picture, is my head's tilted.
Because it hurts if you don't.
Because it hurts if I don't. And I remember the photographer going, straighten your damn head, right? And I'm like, so...
Push the button.
Yeah, just push the button. And so my fourth grade school picture is me with a tilted head because my neck hurt so much. So my parents got me a drafting board. We had a friend that's an architect. Got me a little drafting table. So at least kind of add a little incline to it. And so, that was, I knew at that moment. And then the second moment, the second thing I really thought I could do it was when I was in high school art, and they had an art history book. And on the cover was the work Tracer by Rauschenberg. And he's a 20th century pop artist, along lines of, he was Warhol, Pollock, kind of that whole line. And so I saw that piece, and it's kind of it's a collage. It's a mixed media piece before really we understood it. It's got fine art, it's got photography, it's got line work, and it's called Tracer. And I saw it, I'm like, that's it. That's part of me. And ironically, that piece is up at the Nelson.
Oh, wow.
So it's here with me. So I go down and look at it. It's right there. And one of the pieces that launched me.
You walk in, it's like, John.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yes, sir. It's like, oh, he's here again. So that, and then like some of Drew Solson, who was an illustrator for all the 80s movies, like he did the Indiana Jones, all the Star Wars stuff. He was a big inspiration. And so you start gleaning these little pieces, right? Comic books, huge thing. Al Williamson, Carlos, these guys just informed my style at the time, because it's like musicians, it's like anybody in creative arts. What's that line that Bono says? Every artist is a cannibal, every poet is a thief. And because you're grabbing.
Yeah.
I like this. I like that. I like this.
Yeah.
How can I distill that in a way that then I make it my own? They gave me art lessons. I used to do stipple, which is the little, you do the little dot. That's so, God, I don't have the patience to do that now, because you're sitting there doing dot, dot, therapeutic. So anyway, all these pieces kind of start coming together, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe a comic book artist, maybe that's what I want to do, right? And I'm going to share the story. So comic book artist, cartoon artist. I want to draw comic books. I want to work for Marvel. I want to work for DC. That's my path. I know it. Fuck the funeral home. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, how was that received?
Not well.
Did they sell it to somebody?
My sister ended up his sister and her husband took it over, so it's fine. It stayed in the family. Everything worked out. But no, it wasn't easy. And I credit my my wife, and who was a girlfriend at the time, she kind of gave me the foundational strength to kind of, follow my passion a little bit, instead of having to.
What's your wife's name?
Maureen.
Shouts out to Maureen.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were able to navigate. You start finding these pieces, and there was a comic book convention in town back before Comic-Con was a thing.
Right.
I was 92-ish, and I was in a design school out of Johnson County Community College, and got word that there's an editor from DC here, and he's reviewing books, portfolios, and he's looking for talent. And so this was like, I find this out on a Saturday, and the school's locked up, and I go to the studio, and I have to beg the security guard to let me in because it's locked up. I said, please, I just got to get my work out of here. This is my work, I promise. And he lets me in. I grab a stack of my artwork, run down to I think it was in the Overland Park Convention Center, like when it was on Metcalf and 109. The small one.
Yeah,
that's my memory.
Okay,
it's a bit fuzzy, but that's where my memory is at. And the editor's there, and I'm sorry, I'm going to blank on his name. And I show him my book, and I've got this Superman that I drew, and it's stippled, and it's, blah, blah, blah. And, dude, I never will forget this. Never will forget this. He looks at me, and he goes, John, how would you like to come to New York and draw comics for me? And I'm 20, all of 20, 21, 20, 21, 22. And so my lifelong ambition from 10 to 22 is sitting in front of me, and he says, hey, do you want to come to New York?
Like right away?
Yeah. He's like, he says, what would it take to get you to come to New York and draw comics for me? I said, he's like, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He goes, I'm going to send you a script. I'm going to send you a stack of paper, and you illustrate that script and send it back, and we'll go from there. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
No pressure.
No, exactly. No pressure. So he does.
Really?
He sends it. I still have it. It's a big manila envelope.
You gave him your home address?
I gave him my home address.
And he sent it like he said he would.
He mailed it. It's a big manila envelope. Had the DC, sticker with my address on it. Rip it open, and it's a photocopied script. It's a Green Lantern script.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it's like 4 pages. It's really small.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it's a test. It's just a test. And there's a stack of drawing paper that had the blue lines on it for printing, and it said property of DC Comics on it. It's really...
It's legit.
Yeah, it's freaking legit.
I would have been salivating.
I was.
Like,
anyway, no, totally. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And you know what? Never did it. I know. And I got it in June, and it just sat there, and resistance built, and I just never did it. And I still have it. I still have it in the studio to this day. I still have the manila envelope. I have the script. I have the stack of paper. Pristine. It's still there. And the only thing, the thing I sent the editor, I wish I was going blank on his name. I sent him an email several years ago. And I apologized. I said, thank you for...
Good for you.
I said, thank you for taking the time to do this. And I really appreciated the opportunity. And the only thing I can think of, the thing I think about is, number one, I think the biggest thing is, and that is something I try to take from this, is that what happens when you're so close to your dream? The fear of I let the fear of that fuel the opportunity instead of the opportunity fueling the opportunity. I was so close. It's like, what if George Lucas came in and said, hey, do you want to work on the next Star Wars or whatever,
I'll think about it.
I'll think, but no, I messed up. Total mistake.
Paralysis by analysis.
But I just can't do this. I was so afraid of failure that, oh my God, rejection that as a 22-year-old, I didn't know how to process it. I think that was the overriding factor. I just didn't do it. And that's my big takeaway from it. Second takeaway from it is also I hadn't had the conversations with Dad. And, Dad still was expecting,
Did he know that this thing had arrived?
Yeah, he knew it arrived. But I was going to be a funeral director. That's ridiculous. You're going to stay in Carthage and take over the business. That's what you do. If you're a Knell, that's your job. You stay here and you run the business. And I hadn't had those in-depth conversations with him. We hadn't really sat down to that level and said, I'm just not going to do this. And so I think there was some of the paralysis was the fact that, oh my God, if this happens, then I really have to face
have that
I have to have the conversation. I wasn't ready to have it. I should have had it. No, there's nothing about this situation. I mean, but there's no regrets because my life, the trajectory of my life is where it's at. I mean, had I moved to New York, who knows what would have happened? I mean, who knows? I mean, you can speculate.
Visions along 71.
Visions in London would not happen. Yeah, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have. Yeah,
might not have logged time with your folks.
Yeah.
As they were.
Yeah, exactly.
You might not be a dad.
I might not be. I mean, there's
might not be any Maureen.
Yeah, there might not be. There might not be. Who knows? I mean,
Wow.
there are moments, touchstone moments in your life
Yes.
when you like, here's the inflection point. It could go this way or that way, and yeah, is there regret around that? Because that was my dream, and as a 22-year-old, you're stupid enough to think that those opportunities are just going to fall out of the sky all the time. At least I did. I'm like, there'll be another DC editor that's going to look at my work and just
I'll find out about. And the security guard will let me in.
Yeah,
and he will mail the shit tomorrow.
Yeah,
and my parents won't not throw it away. He's going to be a funeral home director. He doesn't need this.
That shit's happens all the time. Yeah, I mean, in your mind, you have these young, dumb. Yeah. The world that you don't understand. At least I didn't understand. I don't want to characterize everybody because I think some people do that are very. Had I been you compare it to an athlete, like if you had the opportunity to go play pro in whatever your chosen sport, and you're like, nah, I'm not going to go. I'm just going to go and do this instead. It's the same kind of, there's just moments in your life where you think, oh, had it been different.
But that happened the way that it did, and now today, you have a whole thing.
I do.
And what was it like? Taking the leap to say, you know what, I'm gonna make a website, and I'm gonna the mix of what did you so you have the graphic design experience, and you said something to the effect of mixed media and graphic design influencing. Yeah. So how did all that come to be the way it looks right now?
There's just, I always knew that this path was the path. So I took all my experience that I taught myself in running a design business and how to produce creativity in ways that can tell stories or that can solve problems or that can help. And when you're a designer, you're a problem solver. You're helping a client. The logo, you're helping a client. And knowing how to run a business and understanding the entrepreneurshipness around that. So, I mean, I'm not coming from a world of 9 to 5 where I have benefits and I have job security. I'm coming from a world of, now my wife has that, so that helped temper things. So I'm very fortunate. But so I'm already in that mind space, right? I'm already in that mind space. So how can I make this work? How can I make this work? So back in 2014-ish, I discovered Noah Elias is his name.
Okay.
He's an airbrush artist, and he's based out of California. And he's worked with Disney, ESPN. He's made a successful career out of being a full-time professional artist. And he launched a program in 2014 called Reimagine. And so it was like a weekend-long course in Southern California where you go, and basically he gave me the blueprint of how you can be a thriving artist, or based on what his experiences are. So there's no, that's invaluable. A, you see a person doing it. B, here's the path. Here's the things to think about. And then C, here's the steps to take along that path. So 2014 is when I started. I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. The kids are at a point. I have 2 young kids. They were 12 and 10 at that time, 13 and somewhere around that age, early teens. They're finding their own ways. They don't need mom and dad present every single moment. You're not changing diapers and blah 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 up at night. So it just felt right. And then so I took the entrepreneurial.
You were in that hope pocket that you sent my way just a little bit ago.
You are things. You see things that you see that life is starting to change, and then you see these people. Of their kids becoming these individuals that have their own needs and design. Anyway, so it wasn't as huge a leap as I didn't leave Sprint
Right.
And fuck the man, I'm going to go be an artist. It was incremental, and it felt manageable. Unlike going from Kansas City to New York to be a comic book artist at the time, that felt unmanageable as a 22-year-old.
That's wild, wild west.
Yeah.
Compared to with no smartphones and GPS.
No GPS, nothing. I mean, long distance cost money then, right? Hell, even long distance, right? It was like literally you would be ostracized from everything completely that you knew.
Get there.
Yeah.
Like, holy heck, is that a big piece?
Yeah.
And then you got to like meet folks.
Yeah.
And learn your way around.
Yeah, I had no frame there.
Terrifying.
Or a foundational thing to ground me.
And it's not like you would be going to NYU,
right?
Where you're alone,
but
you're also surrounded by hundreds of other students going through the same thing that you are. I mean, where you can connect. You're just
at the best, I'd be put in the bullpen in DC, and I'd probably be lettering. I think it was a career path back then. I think they put you in the bullpen where you just lettered. And then I think incrementally you got to, and this could all be completely inaccurate, so if anybody knows differently. But my thought at the time was, these are the steps. Then you become an inker, and then you... So there was a path there, but it's like, oh my God, you might as well just tell me to go to Siberia, and, right? Yeah. Build a shed to live in. Who knows?
Yeah.
So Noah and the Reimagine program introduced me to a bunch of like-minded folks. And they weren't just artists. They were people that wanted to reimagine their life in ways that felt substantial to them, And so it introduced me to people that I'm still friends with to this day. It introduced me to connections that have helped me along the way. And so from like 14 to 18 is where the transition can happen. And I'm like, I'm not, what I found about graphic design, and as I got, I graduated from design school in '93. So I've been, I was still cutting Ruby Lith with X-Acto knives, but this was right. You had 1 foot in computer land and 1 foot in traditional design process. And so I've been around, and I've seen the path of the industry and what the industry, with all the advent of technology and with the way I presented myself, the way I presented myself as a solution to problems, I became like a Photoshop monkey, right? It was literally like, you're not paying me really, and this is my bad for finding clients that were kind of like this. I mean, this wasn't a broad generalization of all clients, but the clients I was working with at the time was literally, I was a Photoshop monkey. Mm-hmm. It'd be that you weren't paying me for my creativity or my problem solving ability. You're paying me to run some software for you so you can tell me what to do. And so that's what technology, it kind of dropped that level of respect and experience needed to run the profession down, because now everybody knew, their nephew down the street who has Photoshop, and he can just freaking design me a logo. So why am I going to pay you?
Right.
And so that commoditization of media had started, and it's still going. And that is prior to AI. I mean, now it's just kind of the race to the bottom is. Don't get me started on that. But I would hate to be in design school right now. I don't know how. I don't know how that's going to be a sustainable career for, in a way it was for me and my generation, right, or the generation before. And I could, who knows? I mean, there could be things there that could change it, and I don't know. But so anyway, so I brought the graphic design sensibility, how to deal with people, how to sell myself, how to run a business, into the art world. And I think how design influences my art is, like I said, it allows me to spatially play with things that maybe fine artists don't think about, and maybe in ways that, because design is a different skill set than fine art.
Right.
You're totally. I mean, you're using creativity, but and you're using some of the basic rules, but you have to approach problems in a completely different way. And so I think the melding, I think my work shows the melding between the design sensibilities that my chops worked in for 30 years in the industry, and then also the fine art sensibilities of Rauschenberg and Neiman, the sports artists and the people that I admire. And then you also throw in the comic book stuff,
right?
The Al Williamsons, all these guys that influenced me. And then you throw in like Joe Johnson for ILM, and so all these little, all artists have all these things are just kind of rolling around in their heads, and then they congeal into something that hopefully you can access and makes your work your work, right?
Yeah.
I didn't purpose. I mean, I remember. Right now I work with a combination of acrylic paints and digital media. I'm kind of back and
that
forth.
sounds awesome.
It allows me, the digital allows you flexibility.
I've never met anybody that has said that to me before. I'm serious. Like, that sounds super cool.
Well, thank you. I mean, really, thank you, Blair. But what it does is it's that, like how I started in design. It's that one foot in either world. And if you kind of find angles to put them together in unique ways, that makes, so like, for example, what I do a lot of soccer inspired art. You know, my kids played soccer growing up. I'm part of the community. And part of that is we take soccer balls and we dip them in paint, and then we kick them at canvases.
Cool.
And we use the soccer ball as the mechanism to deliver the paint to the canvas. So then we create these abstract canvases that are just full of color and energy and splats and things, a bunch of great stuff. And then I scan that, digitize that,
wow.
and then that becomes the backdrop to my illustrations that then I draw on the iPad. And so what the iPad, I use Adobe Fresco on the iPad, and what that allows me to do is work quickly and try things. Because what I really don't like about, and I'm sounding like Lucas here, but one of the things I really don't, I'm not comparing myself to George Lucas, but this is something he says, is like, I work quickly and I want to try options. I want to have options. You know, if I take my, take my brush and I splatter some paint on a canvas, it's there. Okay, that's great, and you have to live with that. And if you like that, that's okay.
But if you don't, start over.
You start over. You find ways to work around it, or you incorporate it. It's a thought process, and it makes totally fine. It drives me crazy when I'm painting, because I just want to. So what I do then in Fresco is I have all these brushes, different paint-looking brushes, that then I can try options quickly, and I can work quickly. And so I can get the thoughts out of my head quickly, and I can get them down quickly, because I'm going for feeling. I'm going for, And then at the end of the day, then I have a file that is instantly transferable across everywhere. From Instagram to I have a printer here, Lazarus Printing. They print all my canvases, and then to add a layer on top of that. So because like in the art world, there's people that only want to collect originals, right? So you've got the originals. And my mentor, Noah, what his thing was, he's like, you want to get your originals to $10,000 as fast as possible. That is, you want to build that quickly. And like he will sell like original Disney licensed artwork in Disneyland, in the gallery there for $15, $12, $13, whatever, over $10,000
to folks that are just there on vacation, walking around.
Yeah, but he also has people that follow him and are his fans, and so they'll come to Disneyland specifically to see Noah.
And how did you connect with this cat?
Just online. I mean, just I just I can't remember the exact Google prompt, but it's find fine arts, blah, blah, and so I went.
And he would happily accept this mentor cap that you've given him.
He would. Cool. I mean, and no, there was now you paid for. I mean, it's a program you paid for, but I consider Noah a friend and a mentor. I
cool.
mean, he's. And I approach my art community the same way. Is like a rising tide raises all ships.
Right.
I mean, really,
yeah.
I'm here, like, if someone has a thing that they want to do, and how can I help you do it? Because you're going to benefit. That's the whole thing. There's always somebody out there that needs your work. And, what if Eddie Van Halen decided he didn't want to play guitar and wanted to go do whatever? Just think what a void in the world this would be. And you hear this all the time, these artists that are afraid to put their work out. I understand there's resistance. I understand it's difficult. I understand that, you have a lot of insecurities around it. I get it. But I also freaking promise you there's somebody out there that needs your work. They don't, and if they don't need mine and they need yours, that's great.
Right.
Because somebody else is going to need mine.
Yeah.
And so I don't approach these shows. That's one of the great things about Art Garden. I don't approach these shows as competition. I approach them as community. And so if you need my work, you'll find me. And if you need my friend's work, you'll find my friend.
So you have prints.
I have prints
and works available for purchase on the site.
Yes.
Do you also vend live?
Yeah. Yes, I do. And
okay.
I was really quick going to finish that thought fast, because getting the $10,000 piece. So what I do then is I take my prints, because people that want originals, then I will splatter paint on top of it. So thereby creating a one-on-one. So now you have the print, yes, but this is a one-on-one hand splattered by me, hand signed. So then here you go. That's your original. So yes, I have stuff on my website. Excuse me. I have stuff I vend locally. Excuse me. I'm actually down at I have work down in the Eclectics Gallery, which is down here on 63rd Street and right by Governor Stumpy's, right around the corner from Governor Stumpy's.
Okay.
I have work there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the.
I mean, I was at Mark Trokey Automotive this morning getting my car service.
Yeah, so you're right.
Right across.
It's literally right there. Yeah. So that's
Cool.
literally the whole spiel, man.
Nice.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Felt like there was some other question popped up. I suppose it was just this is it. I know that you said it wasn't like, I F the man and walked away from Sprint, but you still, kind of like getting Visions Along 71 out there. You still took a step, took a chance, made yourself vulnerable, followed a passion. And for my money, all of that has merit and value, and it's admirable. I mean, there's a million reasons to say, well, who would want to look at my stuff or
there are
listen to what I would have to say or offer.
Totally are.
Just like 22-year-old you with New York, like
Yeah.
even if the words weren't there to
Yeah.
label it, just to do it is it's courageous and it's cool, and I'm glad you did.
Thank you. Thank you, Blair. That's gosh, I'm going blank. I'm sorry. The producer Rick Rubin has all this stuff that he talks about, and he says just doing it and putting it out there, you've won. And I'm butchering his stuff.
Yeah.
But that's basically it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I was
quote Nike. Just do it.
right. Birthday or Christmas, right around the time that I was engaged, if not just slightly before it. But my ex was getting a gift for me, and she got me an album, a CD, which I still have, called 12 Songs by Neil Diamond.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this record? Are you?
Yeah.
Have you listened to it?
Been a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I open it and I'm like, what? And she's like, I wasn't sure if it's that or Neil Young that you like. And I was like, it's Neil Young. She was like, oh, no, it's hilarious. So why I'm sharing the story. It's hilarious. So eventually I put it in and I'm like, this isn't bad.
Yeah.
And then it kind of grows on me. And we ended up taking for many months very expensive dance lessons.
Really?
As a thing to do. We were engaged for like a year and a half, and I was in grad school and she was freshly starting, so we didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
And we didn't live together.
Yeah.
We ended up dancing to, I'm almost positive it's the final track on that album. And it's called We, and it's beautiful. It's a great song. Love is all about we. It's not about anyway. It's a great album. And it was funny to me that I came to love it.
Is the cover, is it his face?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns out, I might butcher this as well, Rick Rubin produced that album, and he sent him to a cabin in the woods with his guitar.
Yeah.
And was like, come to, I don't know how long it was, 6 weeks. He comes down and gives Rick the tape, and Rick listens to it and get back up there. Like, you're nowhere close.
Right.
Go, and he comes down, and the second time he's like, there it is. And then that's the album.
You having people in your life that encourage that empower that, that champion that. That is so important.
Yeah.
So important.
And yes, I know there's always going to be haters. So there's Rick Rubin haters out there.
Yeah.
I've not consumed a lot of stuff with him in it, but whenever a clip of him doing a podcast episode or an interview comes my way, he always seems pretty legit and cool to me.
Yeah.
And I think there's some folks that are like, that's a facade, is it? And I'm like, whatever.
It could. I mean, it very well could be. But
look at all the people that he's worked with that have made great art.
His resume, his track record, kind of.
At some point, if you're, if the Harvey Weinstein shit, people are going to start being like, I wouldn't hang out with that guy. I'll tell you some other time about eventually. Exactly. But that hasn't happened yet, I don't think.
Since the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, he was part of the original Beastie Boys.
Run DMC. Beastie Boys.
He was part of that whole New York thing that happened. I see. And that goes back into what we talked about earlier, is having that romantic view of creation is a sacred thing, right? And finding that that's something I would love to have. Just have that place where you just go. I mean, I remember the story that Sting, of course he has this, but he would walk down from his mansion, walk down to his little bungalow, that had all this stuff in. And he'd just lock himself in, and he'd make his art all day, and then walk back up. I think creativity, the best work happens in solitude. And I mean, you have to have inputs. You have to be around people. But I think the actual art, for sure to find that. So that.
Well, man, I really appreciate you being here.
This has been awesome, dude. Thank you.
Sharing a list with me.
Yes.
Which I usually just roll through them in release order.
Okay, yeah.
So if we do that, we start in 1969 with
Abbey
Road.
Yes, sir.
The Beatles, 12 of 13, 17 tracks, 47 minutes. No introduction needed for them, but I often feel as though it's worth repeating that both their touring window as well as their album release window were pretty small. Mm-hmm. So this and Yellow Submarine both come out in 1969. Mm-hmm. Let It Be follows this the following year. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. And Let It Be was done prior to this.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the order, like my memory of how the story went is like they wanted to get back in the studio one more time, and they wanted to bring George Martin in and do the whole thing properly. And that's what George said. He said, "I'll come and produce you, but you've got to do it right. You've got to be committed to this." That's my memory of the story.
Cool. So when I'm 1 foot in oldies land and 1 foot in classic rock land, I got a dual cassette recorder and Casey Kasem weekly top and tape and trying to create a mixtape, 72 weeks in the process.
Oh, that's awesome.
I just got one track. I know it. And then the DJ talks over. God damn. But anyway, I borrowed from my buddy Mark Patterson, who is a professor at UMKC these days, and has he went to Africa to study / research AI, and because a bunch of other people from around the world. Anyway, he would be. I've talked to him about doing one of these. We might have him on, but he loaned me two Beatles compilations. Mm-hmm. One was called 62 to 66, and one was called 67 to 70. And I wore my dubbed copies. I mean, I still have them, I think. But that's I subconsciously hardwired those compilations in and went, I got all the Beatles. I don't need to talk to anybody about the Beatles for the rest of my life. And years later, people are like, White Album, Revolver, Abbey. I'm like, what? What are you guys talking about? And then it's like, oh, okay. So somewhere in the fold, this album cover, this iconic album cover, I'm shopping at Xanadu and all the places, posters, I was a poster junkie as a kid. It's like, this album cover so well.
Oh yeah.
But I never, as the old covered wagon serves, remember sitting down to listen to this album from start to finish until getting ready for this conversation.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what were your thoughts then?
I was, first of all, blown away by how many absolute bangers there are on there. Yeah. And then, I'm pretty sure that I have some FM radio memories where they're playing a couple of those shorter tunes together. And so that in my mind, they exist as one song. And then the final piece was just the later portion of side 2. where you get this like 5 or 6 1-minute
Yeah.
song
Yeah.
run,
Yeah.
and almost all of it is way lesser known than some of the smashes
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
side. And I like finished listening to this record, and I was like, well, the whole world is right. This is pretty goddamn good.
Yeah.
So that's, you had the Neighbors that
Yeah.
with the 9
Yeah.
Shrivers.
Yeah, Shrivers, yeah.
So you heard a Beatles record over there.
Yeah.
You thought maybe it was Love, the Love.
It was the Beatles' Love album.
Okay.
Yeah, it was compilation.
How does this one enter your world, and how did it earn a spot on your list?
Oh man, I think that's a great question. Thank you. In junior high, me and a buddy went Beatle crazy. So this was like 81, 2, 3, somewhere in that range, and that's not that far removed from when they broke up. I mean, what? That's they broke up in '70. So and we just went voracious over them, right? I mean, we would ride our bikes, get a lot of money, ride our bikes to Ken's record store, like you were talking about, and we'd go in and we would buy whatever Beatles stuff they had. And so when you asked me the question of the albums, and there's so many Beatle albums that are so sacred to me, for many reasons. And if you ask me in 2 years, it might not be Abbey Road.
Right.
It might be, Sgt. Pepper's or whatever. But to me, this distills their magic in an amazing. I mean, they knew this was it. They knew they were done. I know Let It Be came out after, but they knew this was it.
Wow.
And John Lennon is half in and half out. If you watch the Get Back on Disney stuff, he's all Yoko-ing. He's all about Yoko. He's the Beatles or whatever. George is pissed off at everybody, right? Because he feels he's getting slagged off, and he is. Oh, look at that cute George. He writes a couple songs, and then he fucking talk about bangers. He brings out something, and Here Comes the Sun, and you could argue. And you put that with While My Guitar Gently Weeps, you could say those might be some of the 3 best Beatles songs ever. You could make that case, and I don't think it's a wrong case.
Right.
But then you've got Ringo doing Octopus's Garden, and then you've got that whole side too. Starts with Here Comes the Sun, and then it goes right into all that.
Me and Mr. Mustard and Polly
Sun King and Potty Pam, and and then it ends with, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make.
Yeah, I do. As appealing as that little run was, I've got goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I love that Carry That Weight is smashed right in there, because that was like the what. Hearing tunes like that in FM radio land as I'm building my, that shit just really fed my soul.
Oh, it does.
And it was like, I know, I mean, it's, the same, similar to Hey Jude. There's so many songs where if it comes on, I'm like, I've heard that so many times in my life that I don't want to listen to it anymore because it grates on me.
Yeah.
But Hey Jude, I'm like,
I'm not with Yesterday. I don't need to hear Yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
See? Oh, yeah. Absolutely. But I mean, there's just.
So I get it.
It's a great tune, and then just however many voices there are doing the vocals in the latter part of Hey Jude, it feels like the whole world is in on this together. And Carry That Weight has that kind of same vibe.
It does.
Where I'm like, we're all here and it's good, and we're gonna. I don't know.
Oh, I agree with that 1,000%. I agree that the Beatles at their best were able to distill these things that everyone could, not everyone, but people could really get and relate. I mean, Give Peace a Chance. But all of the list goes on and on and on. And if you think of how prolific they were as artists, I mean, from 63 to 70, and look at that production. It's crazy. As a human being creating art, how do you do that and maintain that level of consistency and creativity? I mean, they changed popular music. They were the torchbearers, and people would follow along. And people are, how many rock bands have 2 guitars, bass, and drums? I don't know. Probably. That formula it works because it works, right? I mean, there's 3 pieces. But Anyway, so yeah. So I had a hard time picking Beatles, but I knew I had to be the Beatles. I knew where I'm at with Abbey Road right now.
So, as this thing continues to live, and it's like always fun when a record makes somebody's list for the first time, and I haven't talked about it before with anybody.
Okay, really?
So I know the White Album's made 2 lists. Sgt. Pepper's has made a list.
Yeah.
Rubber Soul recently made a list.
Yes. Okay.
I don't think this. I think this was at first.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Otherwise, the listening from start to back wouldn't have been.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally.
So
cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
Glad
very
to do that.
but we're gonna beyond this record. We're deviating in an interesting way.
Okay.
So we leap 10 years ahead. No. 12 years ahead.
You too.
To Fair Warning.
Fair Warning.
Fair Warning, Van Halen, 1981, 4th of 12,
Yes.
9 tracks, 31 minutes. We've gone from Liverpool to Pasadena. One of the all-time greats in American rock and roll. A lot of heavy hitters in their library, album-wise.
Oh, I know, right?
Maybe 1984 has made one list, maybe.
Yeah.
But if we just pull that to the side, only one Van Halen record has made one list prior to episode 169.
Really?
And it's all the way back to episode 73.
Okay.
And it was Fair Warning.
Was it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, a guy by the name of Sean Harris
had
it on his list. And at the time I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you get down to the tail end of things, I don't know what the last couple of records were, but I didn't hate Sammy.
I didn't either.
5150 was cool. OU 812, I really liked that record.
Yeah.
But, Van Halen 1, Women and Children First. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to, and Diver Down was fun. Like it had, a couple of kind of goofy tunes, but Fair Warning, like to me, in building my collection, didn't really stand out as much. So when this dude had it on his list, I was like, that's weird, and I went back. I was like, that's pretty good. But here we are, Fair Warning.
Let me make a case for it.
Yep. So first, if you would,
yes,
Van Halen landing in your lap. Generally speaking,
my God, I never will forget this.
And then Fair ever. Warning being what it is.
I never pivotal moment in my music life, right? I'm in Mr. Schaller's art class, junior high, 8th grade, right? And I believe it was Tuesdays, it doesn't matter. On a day of the week, someone could bring in their music, and they could have control of what we listened to while we were doing our work. Mr. Schaller.
Schaller?
Mr. Schaller.
Shouts out to Mr. Schaller. That's super cool.
Yeah. So he was like, so he seemed really old in the 80s. He was probably in his 30s, but he was a 60s guy. Came from the 60s. He had this monster like mustache and beard. Anyway, Mr. Schaller, great guy. Loved him to death. I love him. I don't know where he is. I don't know what happened. Wonderful dude. Very formative in my early art career.
Cool.
And so this dude brings in, I wish I remember who it was, brought in Van Halen 1 on cassette. Okay. Puts it on, starts playing, and Running with the Devil's on, fine. That's a good song. And then Eruption happens. Track 2. And literally the room stopped. I mean, like literally everybody. And all the dudes, all my buddies, we all ran over to the cassette deck, right? And we're like, what the hell just happened? And we rewound it. Because you had to rewind it back then.
Of course.
Yeah, you couldn't just, go back. Played it again. I'm like, holy, I'm sure my 8th grade mind was going, holy fuck, what the hell was that? So that was Van Halen.
Okay.
And so I was starting to learn guitar at this time. I wanted to be a guitar player. I wanted to be John Lennon. I had a little Squire guitar, which is a Fender offshoot.
Yeah.
And so coming at this from a guitar player, I have never heard sounds like this. And this was 82, 83. I mean, so this is, they were past this album.
Yeah.
By the time I discovered
Van Halen 1 is like 76.
Yeah, 7, 8. Yeah, somewhere in there. So I mean,
So they've put out 3 or 4 other records since Van Halen 1.
Yeah.
When this comes out.
Yeah. So that's that's how long it took me to get, so that was pivotal to me, right?
Yeah.
And then so I was introduced there, and then by the time 1984 hit, in 1984, it was like full on. Van Halen was like part of the cultural landscape, right? When Fair Warning was out, it was part of the rock landscape, And I think it was the band your older brothers and sisters might have listened to, and hey, listen to this when you're ready. And so by the time 1984 came out, I was full on, Jump, Panama, this, that, and the other. I mean, the whole, Hot for Teacher.
I'll Wait.
Yes. I know, right?
You got me.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you could make a case that, I mean, to me, that album distills everything.
Even the title track. With that, what is? Are we going to outer space?
What is this, right? I mean, I got that vinyl. I got it in vinyl, and then I got it in CD. I went both.
One of the coolest album cover art.
Yeah.
Decisions of all time, by the way.
And I wish I could remember the designer, her name, but there's a
story.
Husband and wife designer team that did album covers from Los Angeles. I wish I could remember that story.
Yeah.
So I've had, as a guitar player, living through the hair metal years, and how literally everybody tried to play like Eddie Van Halen, right? I mean, the tapping and all this kind of stuff. And
have you seen the clip where he explains?
Yeah.
And he's like, you can't tell which finger I'm tapping or which hand.
The thing from the Smithsonian, where he was at the Smithsonian doing the interview with the lady. His older.
He's healthy and clean.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So as a guitar player, Eddie was the standard bearer, right? I mean, I begged. So I graduated from the Squier, then I got a Fender Strat.
Oh.
Yeah, black and white Fender Strat, right? 1985 Fender Strat, pre-Mexico. So it was the last year they were made in California before they shipped into Mexico.
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, and so it was a big deal back then. Like, you wanted to get a pre-Mexico one because it's made in America. So I got this beautiful brand new Fender Strat, right? And then playing it. And my buddy, I'm in a band at the time, and we're trying to play Motley Crue, Doc and Rat. We're not even touching Van Halen because none of us in the band have the technical chops to do that, right? I mean, who does?
We could do Ice Cream Man if we leave out the
solo. A little twist, just get some blues going, right? Right, exactly. So I got word, and then Eddie started representing Kramer guitars, right? And he was everywhere. You have the Kramer guitar, and you see on all the guitar magazines Eddie with the Kramer. I found out that there was a Kramer Beretta in Oklahoma, and I forgot, Antioch Music in Grove, Oklahoma, which is like an hour or so drive.
Nice little lake town.
Yeah. And so I convinced my dad that I'm going to go get one, and so he signed on board. I don't know how but went down and got it. So I got this beautiful red Beretta Kramer guitar. Before I got that, though, let me back up a bit. I wanted to have the striped guitar.
I was going to say, it didn't have the shit.
It didn't have the shit. So I wanted to have the striped guitar. So this was prior to YouTube. This I had no knowledge. So I was like, I'm going to do this. So I just take my Strat apart, and I'm trying to slap tape on it and find.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I know, right? Stupid stuff.
Did it ruin that Strat?
Oh. Yeah. I'll tell you the story.
Sorry.
The Strat is this. Okay, so basically the Strat is like a box. It's in a box. It's totally busted up. It's half sanded.
Chewbacca.
Yeah. It is. It's C-3PO, but C-3PO is a little more put together.
I can't see.
C-3PO is a little more put together.
Oh, shit. Damn.
See, I'm looking back on this, and I don't. The decisions my parents were making, I don't understand this because I wouldn't have done this because the proper thing is like you just messed up this guitar, and you think you need to go get another guitar? No, not until this guitar works, right? I mean, look at that. So this is that dynamic. But Dad bought off on. So anyway.
I'm struggling with Dad saying no to coming to KC for shows, but yes to Oklahoma for a guitar.
I drove to that. That was my deal. So anyway, I get this beautiful red Beretta, and it is a monster sound. It's it just sounds it's got humbucking pick. It's got the Floyd Rose tremolo. It's just freaking every hair metal. You could play every lick in the world on that you wanted. So I go off to college, come here to Kansas City. I'm home for like Thanksgiving break or something, and there's a new music shop in Carthage, a store that's opened up in Carthage, and I take this guy the box that was a guitar, and I said, hey, can you help me out with this? Can you put this back together? He said, yeah. He said, I can. And I said, okay, I don't have a lot of money to pay you, but he said, I tell you what, I need an acoustic guitar. So you can have all this, and you can have the parts of the Fender, and I'll take the acoustic guitar, because I had the Kramer. I had my electric guitar. I don't need this stupid Strat that like Clapton. Who gives a crap about that, right? I'm Eddie. I'm tapping. I'm doing all that stuff. I don't need that Strat. So I trade the box of parts of my Strat for an acoustic guitar. Got my acoustic. Go home. So probably so I can learn Ice Cream Man, right?
Yeah.
And so this was like Christmas, Thanksgiving break or something. Then I come home for summer and I go back in the music shop, and I look over and there's my Strat sitting over in the corner. It's all put back together, and where I had sanded it down, he just kind of hit it with some black spray paint, right? And I go over and I say, hey, do you mind if I play it? He's like, no. So no problem. So I pick it up.
Same dude.
Pick it up. He put it all back together, and I played it. I'm like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. I mean, it sounded better than any time. I don't know what he did to it, but it has this resonance and this tone.
How thoroughly did he look in the box before signing off on this exchange?
I mean, my memory is, here's the box.
And he was just like, okay.
Can I trade you for that? And he was like, sure.
Wow.
I mean, that was my memory. Now I'm sure I don't know what but anyway, so I'm playing it. I'm like, man, this is amazing. The neck is just this really nice fat neck, and it's just beautiful. I said, hey, I'll trade you back your acoustic for this.
You did not.
I did. He's like, okay.
No way. Who is this guy?
He's out of business. I mean, this was a long time ago. But yeah, no, he's like, okay. So basically, I got my guitar back, and he got his acoustic back. And I have this Strat that plays better than it ever had and sounds amazing. The tone is off the charts.
You have it today?
I do have it today. It's still in my studio.
So, I mean, he's put some time in.
Yeah, he set that thing up.
Nothing.
Earned nothing for it. He loves guitars. He loved guitars.
That's super dope.
And dude, the guitar is like my talisman. It's like my holy grail. Like that guitar is going with me wherever I go. It is always going to be with me. It's because it is just that thing, right? It's that. And the Beretta is long. The Beretta is gone. I sold the Beretta when I got out.
I wonder if there was a person or two that like had their eye on it and they were like saving up, and then one day,
he's got it back. Could be.
Like, I got a nice acoustic.
Would you? So to close full circle with this, with my art career, because I do want to do that, and I do quickly want to talk about Van Halen, this album. So I had the opportunity in my art career. I've worked with Kramer, and I have my own purple splatter Kramer guitar.
There is a link in your IG bio.
In my bio. So the fact that I got to work directly with Kramer and design this guitar for them, is crazy. I mean, so I have in my studio, I have a 8x10 of one of the Kramer covers. Ads that Eddie did in the 80s, and I don't know if you remember it. He's in the No Bozo shirt.
Yeah.
And he's got the white Kramer.
Does he have the red pants on?
No, he's got jeans on, but he's holding this white Kramer and he's pointing to it, and it says Kramer guitar is basically the best guitar money can buy.
Sure.
Eddie Van Halen. So the fact that I mean, I know they're not associated. Kramer's not associated with Eddie Van Halen anymore. I know that Eddie has his own thing, but the fact that I have a piece of my work on a guitar with Kramer ties it back into John in 8th grade in that boombox listening to that amazing solo. And so the reason I picked Fair Warning, and to me there's two things the reason I picked it were really two reasons. Because you could argue that 1984 is a better, more complete album. You could argue that.
Well, this only has 31 minutes of playing time.
I know it.
It's kind of like they're like, here you go.
Yeah. Okay, fine. We need an album. Go. The riffs and Eddie's guitar playing on this and his tone. If you just listen to his tone, is
I don't feel like he's very high up in the mix on this record.
you don't.
Like it didn't stand out.
Okay.
Like it just sounds like Van Halen to me.
Does
late
it?
'70s, early '80s Van Halen.
You try to focus on
I will.
The tone.
I for sure will.
Just the tone is phenomenal. What he does, I mean, that's fingers. That's not. That's just Eddie. You know, I could play guitar for 2,000 years, and I could learn every single Eddie lick, and you can't mimic that because there's just certain guitar players. You know.
Yeah.
And the second thing, the reason I love this album is I think it's a concept album. I think this is a concept album about a night out in Los Angeles on the town. You know, it starts with Mean Streets, goes to Dirty Movies, goes to Center Swing, goes to Unchained. It is a party night out in Los Angeles. You could turn this into like a movie. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, in my world. Do
you ever listen to what Rogan at all? Joe Rogan?
Some on and off.
There's an interview. Dave's done 2 episodes that I know of. Okay. One's kind of recently, and another one's like a handful of years removed. Like
I saw that one. I think, yeah, that was several years ago.
Like, I still don't know how to articulate what I consumed because he's smart.
Yeah.
He's sharp.
Like,
and some damage I think has been done from the years of being the frontman of Van Halen.
Yeah. And just being Dave.
But he's got like all these weird, like, I don't know but I was fascinated.
Yeah.
And it was like, he's telling these stories in this, and I'm like, that feels like you have the sharpest mind that has documented all the details, or you made all of it up on the fly, and I can't tell which.
Probably. What frustrates me about Dave today is he gets more, in my opinion, involved in the language and how it all kind of goes together, and I don't feel like I glean real insight from him. I think it's all just kind of, like you said, it's just kind of, and maybe he just can't put things together anymore. Maybe he just, I mean, can you remember what you were doing 40 years ago on whatever, and you haven't done.
I definitely remember walking away from that with the maybe the lone piece of certainty being that he wanted to convey that there is an intelligent or some piece of him. Like he's sharp and he's a guy that knows things.
Yeah,
and he'll correct all of your erroneous details. I don't know. It was just bizarre.
Well, no, I think it was an essential component to what the Van Halen ethos was. Essential.
Without.
Yeah. I mean, Eddie gets as well as he should. I mean, everyone, but like Dave, I think had creative vision that the rest of the band didn't have. I think because Dave was pulling stuff. You talk about artists grabbing stuff from the ethos and then congealing it. I mean, Dave's stuff was dance hall music and swing and stuff from, I mean, Dave's stuff was all over the place.
I bought two solo Dave EPs.
Yeah.
And a couple of those tracks were California Girls.
And Ain't a Gigolo.
Just a Gigolo, yeah.
Nobody, yeah.
Man, I don't know how many times, and I had my own little musicianship trajectory where it was like, I had a white and black Hondo.
Okay.
It was a Strat imitation.
Yeah.
I bought from the Tune Shop, and
I
paid a dude, took lessons for a little while.
Nice.
But when I discovered that it's all of Eruption is amazing, but it's the walk where he goes. It's so that little. It's a very short song, but just that little portion is like so magical.
It is.
And all the keep all that.
Yeah,
I love that little.
Yeah. Oh no, he has that sense about him. He understands the dynamics of music. He understands. I think it's natural. I mean, it's gifted. It's a gift.
Yeah.
I mean, people get lost in the technical flash.
Yes, exactly.
And as well they should. But I agree with you. There are moments. And that's what I love about music. There are, you can listen, you can hear creative decisions. You can you can think this was the guitarist made this decision to play this, or the bass player did this, and when you can pick out those moments that resonate with you, if you can listen that deeply.
Yeah.
I mean, when we go to Achtung Baby, which is the next one, there are moments. There's moments that Edge does. There runs, to your point of what you're talking about, what Eddie does. There's moments of compositional things that Edge does that just send shivers up my spine.
There were certainly some moments in revisiting this album where, wow, I missed that the first couple times. Anyway, but that's 10-year leap, 81 to 91.
Yes.
You say Achtung?
Achtung.
Not Achtung?
I say Achtung.
Achtung Baby.
Achtung Baby. Has anybody done U2?
So, 7:15, 12 tracks, 55 minutes. Unforgettable Fire has made one list.
Okay.
Joshua Tree has made one list.
Okay.
But we got to go all the way back to episode 40 with a cat named Tomasky that had this album on his list.
Okay.
Sort of the same fair warning-y initial reaction from, really? And the reason that, and I realized that I was off, but the reason for that initial reaction back for episode 40 prep was because I was confused. I was letting this meld with Zooropa, which followed it, and that was where I was like, I can't anymore. And that was an easy choice for me to make because Mysterious Ways and one other smash from this record were played so much.
Even better than The Real Thing?
Yes.
Or One?
No, because I still love the shit out of One.
I do too. Even better than The Real Thing?
Yeah. And it was like, it was one thing to like digest, Boy and October and War.
Right.
And then you come into like Unforgettable Fire and Joshua, that whole, and it's like, wow, what a transition.
Yeah.
And then another one.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, this transition happened before you were on my radar, so I accepted it with grace.
Right.
And then you did it
right.
when I was dialed in,
Yeah.
but you didn't ask me if that was cool.
I know.
You
No, that's legit. Yeah,
but
it's fair.
I had the same experience revisiting this that I did for episode 40, where I was like, God, it's a pretty solid record.
Yeah.
And moments of Edge in there where I'm like, I really like because it's not loud. It's not high in the mix.
No.
Like,
there's a run until the end of the world. What track is that? I always forget. It's track 4. After 1, and there's a run he makes that coming out of the chorus into the second verse, and if you just listen, it's this rhythmic thing. It's like and it blows me every time. It just melts me. It's so. One of the Edge's strengths, and is in my opinion, is he understands the moment of the song, and he understands what to do in that moment.
kind of like Eddie.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the great artists understand that, yes, ego is involved, and yes, you're going to make some choices, back and forth. But serve the song first. Make things that for the song and for my art. The same thing. It's creative thought, right? It's just what decision. There's no wrong decision in art. There are just decisions. You can disagree with that decision because it doesn't resonate with you.
Right.
But, it was a decision. There's no mistake in art. There's just, art's art. And if it doesn't resonate with me, that's fine. One of the things I really want, so I've been U2 moment, so much like Eddie moment. So I had a buddy in 8th grade, once again, who bought the War album. Right? And turned me on. He said, "You listen to this, right?" And then Sunday Bloody Sunday and New Year's Day, and I mean that album is just so bombastic and it's so in your face, and so that's what caught me onto U2. And then when the Joshua Tree happened, that was a huge. I mean that culturally, in rock music, there are just certain moments when artists arrive.
There's no more prophetic piece of feedback in rock history
than Bullet to Blue Sky.
No, still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That low whistle that kind of gets louder and louder.
Yeah.
And then these kind of get the
little chimey notes.
Yeah. But Bullet to Blue Sky too. I mean, yeah.
Well, he's got the feedback there.
Yeah.
But no, I hear you. So one of the things that I think, looking back, of someone that didn't grow up with U2, that didn't experience their career arc. So, they made some questionable decisions in regards to, putting all this stuff on people's phones. If you remember that, they back in what album was that? That was How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. That they, like, if you had Apple, they just loaded that on your phone automatically.
Okay.
And so you had the whole album.
Okay.
And people got really pissed off. They felt really violated because how dare you? I hate U2. Why do I have U2? Right? Okay, fair. And also,
this is how you're spending your vitriol.
Yeah.
You only get a finite amount, bro. Eventually, your heart goes.
It's like pop. Yeah.
So spend wisely.
So that they still get feedback, but I still have a buddy right now that will say, I can't stand U2 because they put me in.
Okay.
Anyway,
right.
And I understand Bono has this kind of personality that can grate on you. I get it. Politics can grate on you. So if you don't align politically with them, or you don't agree with how they're approaching their worldview, that can grate on you. Appreciate all that. And that's all legitimate reasons to not want to be part of a band, to listen to a band. But people forget that they were an indie rock band, right? I mean, they came out of college radio. Now kind of along the same vein as REM, but they had huge ambitions. They built a community around their music very early on. They understood that the power with their music was having the people with them in the journey. They got that very early on. That got lost because they sold a gazillion albums, became the monster band, and on cover of Time magazine in '87, and selling out arenas and stadiums, and they never hit their ambition about wanting to be the biggest thing ever, and that doesn't sit well with indie rock and college radio because you're supposed to be the cool band that only 100 people listen to, and you kind of get the cassette handed to you, get the CD handed to you, that vibe. U2 came out of that. The boy in the October and all that, and then it started to change with War. So REM has kind of become the standard torchbearer in my world of the band that held on to that. I don't even want to say authenticity. How would you just? I mean, they're the college radio darlings. Because they never lost that connection. In my mind, where U2 just severed it and just said we're up here. So having said that, but I've seen every U2 tour since '87. Since
no shit.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've seen them a lot, and the community they built around their music, and the I don't want to use the term spiritualness around it because it's not like a religious spiritualness. No. There's something that Bono says it's when the concert takes off. He says when it takes off. There's moments in U2 gigs that you just feel this sense of at least I do, of this connection and euphoria, and it's they understand that better than bands. They understand the audience's place in this story.
Sure.
But I understand they're gazillionaires. They hobnob with politicians. I mean, I get all that, but I remember the U2, from my bedroom listening to War, when they're just barely getting played on MTV,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I'm able to kind of, appreciate that, and kind of watch them as they, they move through life. I mean, I saw them at the Sphere. I saw the movie of them at the Sphere.
Okay, cool, very cool.
So that was a long answer to
I think
I didn't let you talk there.
No, that's perfect. I do plenty. Trust me. Just taking a quick glance, I think that they recorded this in 4 different studios, all of which were in different countries.
Yeah, that's the rock. They were in Berlin at the fall of the Berlin Wall. That's where they started laying down bass tracks, and they were, from what I remember from the story, they were on the verge of breaking up.
No shit.
Yeah, they were having just creative tensions. Edge and Bono wanted to explore this dancey new, club stuff that was going on in the early 90s. Larry and Adam were like, I just want to play music. And then my memory of the story is one arrived. the song won.
Arrived.
It just, they talk about those songs that just arrive. You don't know where they come from. They just appear. And Ed started playing the riff. Bono started doing, he has this thing called Bongalese, where he's not singing actual words, he's finding melody. So he's like singing gibberish.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And finds melody. He's not worrying about the lyrics, he's just trying to find the melody. He started doing that, and Adam and Larry kick in. And that literally turned the band back towards each other.
Wow.
And allowed them to, so that's, that song did. From my memory, and you were around, and you remember the early 90s, and I was in design school, had this thing called, the computers and the internet, and all. It was the beginning of everything we're living in now. It was all of that. The mass media is all just like on us constantly. And we didn't understand, at least I didn't understand, back then, and I'm going to get, I was very hopeful, this is going to free us, right? This is wonderful. This is, there was this sense, maybe it's just because where I was at in my life, I was in college, and there was a sense of optimism. It's like, the internet's going to save us. Look at all this, it's going to break down the walls. There's not going to be any more gatekeepers, it's going to free us. We're all going to have equal opportunity to get our idea out there. Right. I mean, these are things that were going around my head. And then you listen to Achtung Baby, and it's distilling that moment in time for me. It's distilling, I mean, if the Zoo TV tour, is their multimedia screens, and, it's this over-the-top media stuff, and Bono's calling the president from the stage, and, they've got belly dancers, and they've got, it's all this stuff now that they were really... They were 2 steps ahead of us at that point.
Right.
They saw it.
Yeah.
William Gibson, in his Neuromancer novel, which was published right around that time, was a huge influence on them. And you go back and you read it, and you remember those times. I mean, what was your sense of the internet and computers and
I mean, none of that was really on my radar until the late 90s.
Okay.
And it was still like, there were a handful of us. Like, I remember, strangely, being in a class with John Denver's son.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Zach Denver.
Zach?
You can look, he's adopted.
Cool.
You can look him up. I just looked him up recently.
Did you really?
Because I was thinking of this exact story. It was late in my career at Fort Lewis, and like the teacher was saying a thing. And inside the thing was like a kernel that most of the folks in the classroom were like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, what was that? And he leans over. I sat next to him. And he goes, it came to us in email. And I was like, what?
Yeah. I remember what's email?
And like most of the kids in the room were like, yeah, of course. And I was like, okay, if I had an email, how would the professor know? And it's like, the school gave everybody one. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, where do we get told this? And he's like, haven't you ever spent any time in the computer lab? I was like, the computer lab? I mean, I literally handed in my senior thesis, and my professor goes, this looks like you printed it on a dot matrix printer. And I was like, because I did. And I was like,
awesome.
So,
yes.
email, the internet, blah, blah, blah. That's 97, 98, 99.
Yeah.
But it was, I went to, pretty sure it was this tour at Arrowhead.
How was it?
And the cars, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, where's the dudes in the wheat field, like, singing about civil rights?
Exactly.
And I was whatever. I was more interested in pounding beer and making out with the girl that I was with. But
that's fair.
It was kind of like, not really sure. And then that next album came out, and I was like, see, I don't know.
And then Pop comes out after Zeropa, which even further splinters, because it's way into European dance arrangement.
Which is, all of that is fine.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But I was like, I want my U2 the way.
Absolutely.
Feed it to me that way.
No, absolutely. And as a reaction to that, in 2000, they went back and did All That You Can't Leave Behind. They spent the 90s, Bono talks about cutting down the Joshua tree. Very few, very, very, very few artists. Beatles, I mean, have the cultural cachet
Right.
to do that.
Right.
Everybody wants, Eddie. Everyone wants to, whatever. You name an artist. Everyone wants U2 to do the Joshua Tree, right?
Well, and then they did a 25th anniversary tour,
which was great.
Yeah. I know. Some buddies of mine went to, and they're like, it was really great.
That was a great gig. And but you know what? Then I went to the tour, the Innocence and Experience tour immediately after that, which was like a year after that, down in Tulsa, and I was really happy that they were freed from having to play the Joshua Tree songs.
Oh, okay.
Then they could play other stuff.
Now, the last 3 releases that they've put out are part of a series?
Yeah, Innocence and Experience, and there's the 2 back-to-back. I'm sorry, I'm going blank on the name now.
That's okay. You're digging them?
Yeah. Well, they're solid. The last one, this newest one, the last one they did, I thought was solid. I mean, but I'm a sucker for, like my son will say, I'm not going to trust anything you say about Star Wars because you're just going to say it's good.
Right.
Right. So there's no objectivity, right? I mean, I'm kind of one of those loyalists. When I find a band, I'll defend them, and maybe sometimes they don't need to be defended.
Right.
I mean, like No Line on the Horizon, the U2 album No Line on the Horizon is a great album for creative work for me. I can just put it on. But like they slag that out. Anyway, yeah, so I was at that gig in Arrowhead. And there's a lot of people that are pissed off about that. A lot of people. I mean, you're not alone in that.
I wasn't pissed off. I was just like, this is a different feel from what we're familiar with. Anyway, it's fine.
It is fine. I agree. Yes, you're not alone in any of that. But how many artists get that opportunity, right? Not many.
I'll count them on one hand, probably. Yeah. I don't know. Either way, great list.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I don't want to cut you off.
I'm good.
Okay.
No, I'm good. Anyway, those were my choices.
It was a great list. Super fun. And I've got a series of goofy questions that I'm going to fire your way, and then we'll get you out of here.
Sounds great.
You get to have lunch with anyone of your choosing, dead or alive.
Okay.
Who and why?
That's a really hard one, right? So many people. I would probably go with. I'd probably just do Walt Disney.
Wow, cool.
That's a pivot, I understand, because I was going to do Lucas or I was going to do Eddie. I mean, there's so many people I'd pick. But the reason I would pick Walt, I think he understood human nature and how to tell stories, and he understood how to
for sure
how to bridge. Not bridge is not the right word, but how to make people feel ways about things. He understood how to tell stories.
Yeah.
And he was a businessman, but he was visionary. He was, I mean, there's a lot about Disney that like set the groundwork of things that are going on now. I don't know. To me, he had a tenacity to believe in himself so much.
Yeah.
And that's what all great people do. I mean, he bet on himself 100%.
I'm picturing just the way that Steamboat Willie whistles when he's at it's so innocent and like the world is happy and look, we can go places and this is fantastic.
But Lucas bet on, I mean, all these great people that have changed culture bet on themselves unapologetically.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not.
Great answer.
Thank you.
So if we can pretend or imagine that we all have a personal and a professional bucket list.
Okay.
You're given all the necessary resources to go knock out number 1 on both lists. Mm-hmm. What are those number 1s?
Professional is funding and infrastructure to do the things I want to do. I want to build foundational things that allow me to pursue projects excite me and that have the opportunity to create something.
Cool.
And so it would be funding.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm missing, funding and infrastructure.
Okay.
So personal.
Yeah.
Personal would be, and I don't want to sound cliche, but, personal would just be have the freedom to travel, just to honestly experience culture in the world.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
Those would be my two things.
To go back to number one, just really quick.
Yeah.
Did you stick around for this far into Morgan's?
I didn't quite make it all this far.
It's great. It's great because nobody does, so nobody's expecting these questions.
Yeah.
Morgan thought for a second, and she goes, probably my dad's dad, just so I could figure out what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
And the person that raised the person that would not really be around to raise me.
Wow.
And I was like, because, am I supposed to pick somebody famous? No, fucking anybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Say, wow.
And she had that there. I was like, damn, that's a great answer.
That is a great answer. Dang.
Well
done, Morgan.
Given the opportunity to visit your past self,
Yes.
Any age,
Yes.
You're choosing.
Yes.
What age are you choosing? What are you saying?
I am going to. I'm going to 22-year-old John, and I'm telling him to believe harder than you do now in what you can do. Because it's going to...
Even if that makes him send the thing to DC?
Yeah, believe.
Okay.
Believe.
That's a great answer. It really is.
It is. You have it in you to do what you think you want, what you know you can do. Just do it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fear Factor. You remember this show?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's gross challenges to win a prize for the early portion of reality TV.
Right, yeah.
This is not that. This is real life.
Okay.
You're at A, you got to get to B.
Okay.
But in the middle
is
your John Knell's 1A of heebie-jeebies, willies, terror. But you got to get to point B. What is that thing?
What's the terror?
Yeah.
Gosh. What is the terror? I don't. Probably, and this is from my funeral home experience. Probably.
Oh God.
Yeah. No, just probably, a room full of, corpses and in various states of.
Like when Thomas J goes downstairs does the girl go downstairs in My Girl?
Oh gosh.
Veda Sultanfuss.
Yeah.
Because Dan Aykroyd is her dad, and he does it in the basement.
That's right.
Maybe she goes down. Maybe she knows what's down there, but she goes down there.
Yeah.
And like a door shuts, and she's stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terror.
Having to go through a room of cadavers in various states of decomposition.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Good answer.
That would be it.
Last but not least,
Yes, sir.
please complete this for me.
Okay.
The world would immediately become a better place in which to live if only
we saw each other as human and cared about that. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just have some empathy.
Fantastic answer. Yeah. Empathy. Yeah. So we've got at Johnny_KC on Instagram. We've got johnknell.com, JOHNKNELL.com.
Yep.
For all your stuff. Any other plugs?
I mean, I'm on TikTok, same Johnny_KC. There's more conversational content on TikTok.
Oh, fun.
Just because of the nature of excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
So there's more conversational stuff on TikTok just because how that works. But yeah, those would be the 3 places.
I don't need another reason to increase my time spent on TikTok.
Yeah, I know. Do you doom scroll?
Oh my God, it's so bad. It's so bad. So if you see me liking your posts, it's just because I'm not trying to be weird. It's just because I'm on there and I feel like if I like your stuff, it'll boost it.
But they don't. But there's no rhyme or reason to the algorithm. To me, it just stuff appears.
It's a weird one.
It is. People are liking posts from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But no, those are the places. I try to. I do shows on First Friday. I'm around town. So
and most of or all of that shows and that kind of stuff on your Instagram, on the
website.
Okay.
Yeah, I do post all that stuff there.
Cool.
So I appreciate any support or
Right.
any community I can build around my art.
Is there anything that you had hoped that we would cover that we didn't?
I wanted to talk about Taylor Swift.
Oh, you did?
And I want to talk about AI. And I wanted to talk. No, these are just the want sounds. No, not want. These are just ideas I had around. Wanted to talk just about culturally how music, where it's just kind of cultural conversations around music and how it has evolved over the years and how it fits. But
do you want to take a stab at that, or do you want to come back and do
we
another?
can come back.
Okay.
And do another. If you'd have me back, at
I
some
would.
point.
I would. I will say this, that sort of bringing it full circle to the Visions along 71, and it's too raw, so not yet.
Yeah.
And then now, now it's time, but I might not have retained. So when I reach out to you,
it's okay, dude.
And I say Taylor Swift and AI, you're gonna be like, what? What are you talking about?
Well, totally, dude. I'm honored if you have me back. If not, this has been a wonderful experience. I've enjoyed it, Blair. It's been great. I don't know how long we talked, but
I mean,
it was a while.
We're north of 3.5 hours, so
you're gonna have to do some editing. You're gonna have to do some judicious editing.
Now, see, here's the thing: is a lot of folks say that. What I will cut out is our chat at the beginning, and then for the most part, the rest of it stays, because
really,
who's to say that this little tidbit is more important than this?
Yeah.
And most folks don't stay tuned for the whole thing anyway.
Yeah, so it's okay. Okay. Thank you.
Man, it was really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Blair. This has been awesome, sir.
Cheers.
I appreciate it so much.